Greetings, mortals, from the decaying minds of Dylan Altoft and Rob McNabb, we bring you... Hello, listeners. I'd like to play a podcast. By the end of this video, if you have not liked, subs, and commented, I will be very sad. I will go up to my room and I will cry with my dollies. Like or subscribe. It's your choice.
Oh, God, that hurt.
Yep, story of my life.
Oh, God. I pretty much just burped into the microphone for a good fucking 30 seconds there.
Yeah, nice.
Hello there, listeners, and welcome to the Halloween episode. Ooh. Ooh. Rob, stop molesting that cat.
Make me.
Good point. Hello, listeners, and welcome to the spooky episode of Laughing on a Prayer. Or, as we should say, Screaming on a... swear?
Screaming on a swear. Fuck! There we go.
Rob, anything spooky you'd like to say to our listeners?
Yes. Everyone, I've been practicing this for quite a while, and I think I've got it nailed down. I just want you to listen to my Michael Myers impression. Okay, so, I tried my best. I hope that was good. Let me know in the comments if that was a good Michael Myers impression.
Oh, Michael Myers. You know who I was thinking of just then?
Oh, Mike Myers.
Yeah! So when you stood there and did nothing, I was like, I don't get it.
Mike Myers has done a lot.
I thought you were just going to do a fucking Shrek impression or something. Michael Myers. I am a shit dip.
Yeah, come on, man. Halloween.
Ooh, and we do have a very special selection of fun for you guys. As usual, we have our awesome questions, but we have also got some really fun discussions ahead in terms of
Yes, we are.
horror films. Horror is a genre, including all different realms of the scary, dairy, berry, Carey.
Yep, Jim Carrey. Scary dude.
Scariest motherfucker alive. Do you know they once suggested for it to be the Joker?
Did they actually?
He was considered for it once.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. And he was all
He was the Riddler.
Before Woody Harrelson, he was also considered to be Carnage.
That would have been kind of cool.
Yes, I don't like Woody Harrelson. Anyway, so let's just get right into it for a Spookerfest.
Spookerfest?
I'm going to stop using the word spooky now.
Okay.
For a creepy fest.
That's not better.
No, it's not. Creepy fest sounds too close to like molest.
Yes. And that sounds like a cow orgy.
Molest.
I'm not sorry. Get over it. You're all adults here, I hope.
Let's go on to questions.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Time for some spooky ass questions.
Okay, some spooky ass questions.
And that just means questions that are really spooky, not questions about ass, about being spooky, like a haunted butthole.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No haunted buttholes, Rob.
Fine, I need to change my question.
Yeah, you can't have any questions about Fox News.
Okay, so if you were going to create an original horror movie villain, be it a demon, slasher, or, whatever, tell me who you're going to invent.
I am going to invent the ethereal concept of student loans.
That sounds pretty scary.
Oh, yes. He's going to appear every once a month. He's going to appear when you get paid. You're gonna log into your thing, you see you're gonna be paid, and then my face is going to appear on your screen.
Your face?
Yes, because I'm the evil fucking patron ghost, aren't I?
Oh no, I didn't say you were the one, but if you were going to invent...
Fine. An evil fucking Wagargle.
I mean, it can be you, but like...
No, I'll play it your way. Our evil fucking face is going to appear every time you get paid, and suddenly, a third of your money is gone!
God damn, that's hardcore.
Student loans.
Student loans. Is that going to be the demon's name?
Yep. And you invoke him every time you log into UCAS. Log into UCAS 3 times and say his name.
He sends you emails.
Yes. And you are never much like student loans himself, you are never rid of him. He is tormenting you for life.
Unless it's after 30 years, in which case he leaves.
Yeah, a lot of American listeners might not be understanding that right now. Yes, our student loans get wiped after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Theirs don't.
Do they not?
No.
Oh, God.
And not to mention, I'm not getting into this, spookiness.
Yeah, we go spookiness.
That's going to be my original horror IP, the realities of adulthood.
Fair enough.
The most terrifying thing imaginable.
Do you know, I had a feeling, I was like, I bet he's going to say something like that. Thinking outside the box, though.
Like a broken condom.
Yeah.
Ah! The most scary thing for a man to come across ever.
A broken condom. Well, I mean, if it's theirs, like, if you come across a broken condom that's not yours, you're probably like, someone's getting fucked up now.
But imagine that was in your house.
Yeah, that was in your house, I'd be like, oh, well.
Under the couch cushion. Motherfucker.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, at least it's not my baby.
Right then, Rob. You are in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
Freddy Krueger is chasing you in your dream. How are you going to fight him?
How am I going to fight Freddy Krueger?
Yep, Freddy Krueger's got his glove on, and each of the knives is chingling.
Chingling.
That's a word.
Yeah, okay, it's going to be a word. In my dreams. Well, my dreams are kind of weird.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah. My dreams are kind of weird. I reckon it's weird that I seem to have like a kind of running theme in my dreams that kind of revolve around like I seem to have I've noticed I've had like horses in my dreams like quite recently a lot.
That might be some sort of male intimacy thing.
It might be.
Male horses or female?
I don't know, just horses.
Yeah.
Just horses. Maybe non-binary, I don't know.
Okay, Freddy Krueger.
So I would get on a horse and I would run him down with my horse. But
You think that's going to work?
no. Well, not in the way that people think. Run down my horse, he might slash the horse, but horses, here's a little info about horses. You don't want to stand behind horses because they kick backwards. I reckon if I get a big enough horse, it's going to kick backwards, it's going to knock Freddy Krueger down. And then I'm going to jump off my horse, pin him down and sodomize him and establish dominance the best way I know how.
Well, given its canon in certain iterations that Freddy Krueger did that to a lot of children, there's a lot of poetic justice there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly there. And he's a paedophile. So, yeah, I'm going to rape Freddy Krueger. You heard it here first, folks. I'm going to knock him down with a horse and I'm going to butt fuck him into next week. I'm not even gay, but the hatred will drive me forth.
Nice, so you've turned it into his nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. The hunt will become... No, the hunter will become the hunted.
No, the hunter will become the fucked.
The hunter will become the victim.
Right then, what's my one?
Your next one is... If you are... you're in like a sort of warehouse.
Oh, shit.
Okay. And you are fighting...
What's that warehouse for? Is it like shipping parts or is it like food?
Well, in the warehouse, it's got an array of all like the iconic horror movie weapons. So you've got like a chainsaw, you've got Freddy Krueger's glove.
Okay.
You got God damn it. What's that? Jason's machete.
Okay, yeah.
You know, things like that. you pick a weapon, all right, but you have to go head to head with that weapon against the villain whose weapon it belongs to.
So if I put on Freddy Krueger's claw glove, I'd have to go against Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pick up a videotape and slap the shit out of Samara.
Just having a videotape next to all these weapons, yeah.
That's the thing. Someone with knowledge of horror would know how to pick the right weapon. Obviously, I'm not going to pick up a chainsaw and go up against Leatherface, am I? No, I'm going to pick up a videotape and slap the shit out of Samara with it.
Garrot her with the fucking...
Yeah, rip the tape out of it.
The
like,
reel, yeah.
Stupid TV bitch.
Yeah, is it not today?
Not to mention, she's been living in a well. She ain't gonna put up much of a fight, is she? I don't know how she always killed all those people with her spooky ghost powers.
Because they were all, weirdly enough, wetter than she was. They were.
It was mainly dumb teenagers who like you do the Bloody Mary thing. Oh, I'll do it for a laugh. Maybe I'll pick up a hook and take on Candyman. Maybe I can do that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, you could do that. That's what I like about this. Like, I love about like those films like Texas Chainsaw and like Halloween and stuff is that everyone makes like the worst fucking decisions. Like
that's
all
because
the time.
well, that's the thing. That's because a smart person's first decision, if they're in a haunted house or they're in a scary situation, a house, is to turn on the lights.
Yeah.
Turn on the lights, you can see exactly what's going on, nothing can sneak up on you, but obviously it's scary for the lights are
It's
off.
like, oh no, I must pull out my lighter and click it and then it will go out. Like,
At which point you go, hello? Is anyone there?
And
It's
then
me, the killer!
oh, and then you walk further into like the scariest part, and then obviously you trip over, and then if you do manage to escape, you get in your car, but your car's shit, so it never starts.
I don't know, maybe I could pick up a... I don't know, what is it? One of those like voice recording video cassettes and just beat the shit out of Jigsaw. He's a puppet, what's he gonna fucking do?
I mean, assuming that Jigsaw's weapons are... Well, I mean, Jigsaw's weapons are kind of people, aren't they? Like, he uses people, don't he?
Oh, okay, maybe I'll take on the old man that's behind the puppet then and beat the shit out of a cancer patient.
Would you... yeah, I was going to say, would you be able to do that in good conscience, beating the shit out of an old man
no.
who's a cancer patient?
Yeah, he still kidnaps people and horribly murders them. I don't give a shit what's wrong with him. I'm going to kill him.
Just fucking imagine. Just fucking whacking the shit out of you.
Yeah, he's on his wheelchair or whatever with his IV drip and I'll just fucking clock him in the nose. Shove his pre-recorded tape for me right up his ass and click play.
I think there's a theme going on with like sodomizing horror villains.
I don't know, maybe I can go inside I don't know what I'd pick, maybe a house and fight the demon from fucking Paranormal Activity. But I'd lock all the doors so he can't slam them shut.
What now, bitch?
Yeah, you can't slowly open the door at 3 a.m. now, it's locked.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be your house either, so if it broke shit, you'd be like, what? That's not mine. I don't give a fuck.
Glue the bed to the wall so you can't make that move out and all that. I would troll a ghost. I would troll the Paranormal Activity ghost. I'd make sure nothing in my house could move so he couldn't fuck with it.
Yeah, I'd also sleep naked, so if he wants to come in the room, he's gonna see that shit.
Oh. I know, maybe you just get like, you realise your house is haunted. Alright then, you just get really, really high. So anything weird and supernatural it does to scare you, you're just like, cool.
Oh, they fucking do that though. Have you seen Haunted House? It's one of the it's a Wayne comedy. It's like piss take of.
I think I saw the second one, the one where they did the parody. I think it was the Possession and the Annabelle doll and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, that's the second one. No, the first one is Paranormal Activity, which is it's Paranormal Activity piss take, and it's fucking funny. But they do that, like they get high, like smoking weed, and then the fucking ghost smokes weed and shit as well. It's kind of funny.
That is awesome. We need to see more high. Imagine Freddy Krueger like using his claw hands smoking a blunt. Damn man, I was just a gardener. Then shit all got fucked up.
But But this is one hell of a play. Like,
Right then, that was fun. Okay, Rob,
yes.
that's your name. All right, you
Yes.
are in a spooky. You've just bought a spooky mansion.
Yeah.
Now, this mansion, even though it's because it's spooky, obviously has a horrible past, so its prices were slashed. But it cost you a soft $1 million. It's like 10 bedrooms, all of them en suites. This is a nice fucking place. But the first night, you hear a voice going, "Get out." What do?
Well, voice telling me to get out.
Yeah,
Um,
you just dropped all your money on this amazing house.
I'd probably just say, fuck it, make me then.
Okay, the walls start bleeding blood, and it's like, it's not doing that paranormal activity shit. This is like Poltergeist. This house wants you fucking gone.
First of all, I call you.
I'm hanging up.
Yeah.
Call me at 2 a.m. because you heard a voice.
Mate, you gotta fucking come here. And then, we will smoke shit tons of weed, and it'll be hilarious.
Yeah, but I imagine, like I said, this isn't like Paranormal Activity. This is something that is eventually like The Conjuring. Do you remember how that house eventually, at the end of that, began to really So this is a house that's going to fight you. Are you going to fight to keep your mansion? Is the basic question here.
Is it a really nice mansion?
Like I said, 10 bedrooms, all en suite, massive back garden. It's really close to a KFC.
But I got it for £1 million because it's like...
It's like a $20 million mansion.
Okay, well, I'll sell it for like 15 million. Be like, mate, 15 million, like just...
Yeah, but that's the thing. It has like a really bloody history. That's why you only got it for $1 million, so you'd never be able to sell
I'd
it.
open it for haunted house tours. I'd make money. I'd make my money back.
But you know the ghost is going to do the Looney Tunes thing with the performing frog, and the second you bring people around, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll keep bringing people around and nothing will happen. And then I'll keep my house.
Why are you going to do that at night?
Oh, if I set up cameras, I guess.
Well, just let a couple of crackheads live in your house and...
Not crackheads.
Spooky people... Yeah, no, nothing bad happens to...
No, I mean, I have friends. Like, believe it or not.
I ain't moving in your haunted fucking house. Gonna wake up with a drawer in my ass or something.
Fine, maybe. And what horror movie in what horror movie does that happen in?
I'm just saying.
Ask you for a friend.
I'm getting dressed, I bend over to tie my shoes, and a ghost goes like...
So there's a horny ghost.
Aren't they all?
I don't know.
If you've been dead for a while, I would be.
Yeah, that's true. You probably would be, wouldn't you?
But also it's fucking with the shower, so you turn on the cold, it goes hot. You turn on the hot, it goes cold.
I could just reverse it.
It's going to constantly do the opposite, so you'll never be able... Like I said, this is a house that's going to drive you insane.
Okay. Well, what I would do is first of all set up loads of cameras in it.
I love how you're not calling an exorcist or anything yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing I'll do. I'll get loads of cameras in it, then call an exorcist and record everything.
You just dropped £1 million on a house. How many cameras are you fucking buying?
Well, assuming if I had £1 million, I'd probably have more money left over because, you don't just spend all your money and then have no money left. That's
Let's
just bad marketing.
let's say this house is like the Amityville house. Have you seen that one with Ryan Reynolds? It's that house.
Okay.
This is a house that is gonna fuck you.
Yeah, so probably call an exorcist.
I love that you're not even considering leaving.
No. I spent £1 million on the fucking... I spent £1 million on the cunt. I'm not leaving. my fear of wasting money is far greater than that of a demonic spirit.
Once again, the ghost of student loan approves.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh mate, I'd start speaking to her like, oh, you sweet summer child.
Why don't you take out fire insurance and just burn it down? Fuck you, ghost.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to commit insurance fraud.
Okay.
And burn it down.
You cover the place in gasoline, you light the match, and the ghost blows it out. every attempt to create a fire.
Not that it matters, because people will be like... Because, when someone comes in, they'll be like, someone fucking committed arson here. like that's what they'll say.
No, you burn it down so well there's no evidence.
Okay. Well, then there we go. Then I'll burn it down so well.
But that's what I'm saying. The ghost is like blowing out every spark you create. So you've covered the whole house in gasoline now, and it will just stink to gasoline. The ghost won't let you create a fire.
What do you want me to do? And then I'll do it.
I don't know. You tell me.
I told you what I was going to do. I was going to sell loads of cameras, get an exorcist, and then film that shit.
And what if the exorcist fails?
Then it'll be great, because then I'll invite more exorcists and I can create a TV franchise.
Oh, this has all been your chance to get like ghost encounters here or something, isn't it?
I mean, I'm going to call it something way cooler than Ghost Encounters, but
No, like you've watched those TV shows like Ghost Hunters and all that.
Ghost
You're going to call
Adventures.
them to your house.
Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to call them to my house. I want to meet Aaron Goodwin, a fucking mad lad. I love
All
that
of them
guy.
with their night visions on, holding a takeover.
They
Is
don't have
anyone
ni-
here?
They don't have night visions. They have night vision cameras. Actually.
All right, that's a solid plan. Fair enough. I hope your house doesn't kill you.
I mean, if it does, then, you know, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'll be like, oh, well, it's time to go.
All right, what's my next question?
Your next question, okay. So, what do you think is the best? This is kind of not really. It's kind of similar to the last question, but what do you think is the best, like, horror movie weapon?
Love.
Yeah, that's probably it.
To be honest, that does fall on a more interesting idea with horror. Is it more scary that a psychopath hates you or loves you? Because like the idea in, for example, in Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter had a very a sort of uncomfortable attachment to Jodie Foster, didn't he? He didn't hate her, but the way he was sort of attached to her was even more chilling. Like if a serial killer hates you, you know what he's going to do. He's going to hurt you. If a serial killer loves you, you have no idea what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's true. It's fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Exactly. He could rip off your skin just so he knows how it feels to look like you and shit like love is the most interpretational thing.
Yeah, like fucking Ed Gein.
Yeah. So
Most people probably know this already, but the inspiration for Norman Bates, Leatherface, Buffalo Bill is all based on this real life serial killer called Ed Gein, who, no joke, created a skin suit and also loads of other stuff. He used to rob graves and he murdered two people. One of them was Bernice Worden, and the other one was, I can't remember her name, but he had a very creepy attachment to his very overbearing mother, and he created this skin suit out of
to look like
female flesh. Yeah, and he also had loads of other things. He had upholstery made out of skin. He had like a belt with nipples on it, and like cups that were made out of skulls. He was a really fucking weird dude, and he was arrested because he shot and killed Bernice Worden and dressed her out like a deer. And the police, turned up to his house and saw all this stuff and searched his house, and then he just kind of went quietly, and at the police station he asked for a slice of apple pie and then just told them fucking everything.
So what, did he get executed?
No, he didn't get executed, no. Because he was found like he was insane. He's found as being insane.
Oh, that thing. Hang on, but that clearly he showed that every one of his kills was premeditated, and thus doesn't that exempt you from the idea of insanity? That if you had comprehension over the consequences of your actions, hence premeditation, you're not insane.
I'm not sure how the law works in that state, but
What time was this?
1950s.
Oh, they might have just locked him up.
I think it was probably because like all the shit that he did. They were like, "There's no way a sane person would do this."
Fair enough. Okay. I think love is still a really fun answer, because again, I think the idea of love in the hands of a psychopath is terrifying. But
As
if
a weapon, yeah.
But if I have to pick a classic monster weapon, I suppose again, is this the one in terms of parameters? Am I going with the one that is more likely to be the most lethal, or
Yeah,
the one
like the
I
most-
think is
like
the
the
most
most-
best?
But we'll do both. So the one you think's the most efficient versus the one that you think's like the coolest.
I guess the one that'd be the most efficient in terms of, and I have to reference obviously a horror movie.
Or a horror villain. Like.
I'm trying to think of a horror film that has the largest kill count in the single span of the movie. And at the moment, what's in my mind is Sinister, because that demon using its influence had the
Uses people.
Yeah,
And people could be used as weapons.
that's exactly what I'm thinking. It used the children, the least likely to be
What's
suspected.
his name?
Bagul.
Bagul. Yeah.
Yeah. Second one sucked ass. We'll go into.
Second one did suck.
We will
We're
go
gonna
into horror films in a little bit.
Yeah.
So yes, demons that manipulate people, and that's a powerful weapon.
That is a powerful weapon. And I like how you went with love and also like people, because like emotion is very much something that you can weaponize.
Yeah, I'm on a weird mental theme here.
Yeah.
Let's go with fucking. So many weapons are. That's the thing. So that's the whole point of horror movie villains. In a way, they are all really inefficient. That's
Yeah.
how they fuck up and get defeated.
Like a chainsaw.
There is no perfect weapon or tool, because that's how. Otherwise, they'd never get defeated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess maybe Hellraiser's cube, because I don't know if they really get defeated.
I mean, Leatherface doesn't really get defeated, does he? They just get away from him.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But he's a big fucking lumbering 8-foot behemoth. What are you gonna do? Just turn around, kick him in the balls?
I mean, that's the thing though. Like Leatherface, like I don't want to, sort of shame anyone's sort of weight or anything, but he's not like in the best of shapes, is he?
Well, he doesn't need to be. Like, think of WWF.
Yeah.
Remember Big Show? He was a big fucking motherfucker.
But Leatherface runs around like everywhere. So he runs around everywhere. So his cardio's like kind of good.
Well,
and
like-
also he's carrying a chainsaw, and chainsaws are heavy. Like I've used chainsaws, like they're heavy.
He's like one of those farm boys, like, for example,
Yeah.
like Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
He's just got
he is
substandard
like that.
intelligence strength.
Yeah. He's like too dumb to quit, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Obviously, the mind is what the brain prevents you from using your full strength because it harms the body, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, if I wanted to, I could lift you up with one arm and throw you out the window, but my arm would be ruined forever, so my brain doesn't let me do that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe sometimes some people can be so dumb their brain doesn't bother to do that. And maybe they can access that hidden strength.
Yeah. And it's like adrenaline as well. Like adrenaline will make you do stuff that like you never thought you could do.
Oh yeah, hence why a lot of people in war situations say they ever shot someone throw up afterwards because of a pure adrenaline and all that shit.
Yeah, and also like adrenaline, like being shot is actually, like if you're shot by something, like quite a lot of the time, like people actually like run away, and it's only afterwards they realise they've been shot.
Yeah. Well, fight or flight sort of situation.
Yeah, and it's like you can get shot, but the adrenaline, like you won't realise that you've been shot, but you'll run away, and then you'll be like, oh shit, I've got a big old hole in me.
Ah, I thought of one. Predator's shoulder gun. That-
Is that a horror movie though? I think that's more of an action kind of.
What about
film.
Alien versus Predator? Predator is still on like.
Alien, I think, is definitely a horror film, but like.
Predator
Alien
is
versus-
a movie monster. On the same principle as Alien.
Yeah, but a movie monster versus like a horror movie monster, I think are different. Like Godzilla is like you wouldn't say Godzilla's a horror movie, would you? He's
Well,
a
from the
movie
perspective of the Japanese, maybe.
monster. Well, yeah. But
It's
like,
not your city he's walking through.
well, yeah, but like the film in general, right? It's like not horror. It's like he's a movie monster, but he's not a horror movie.
What about a werewolf?
Monster? Yeah, you can have a werewolf, like the Wolfman.
Exactly, and
Love
that's a movie monster and a horror thing, isn't it? A werewolf.
Yeah.
Like, ever seen like Dog Soldiers and that?
Yeah.
That's a
but-
good film.
But like, I don't think Predator's a horror movie.
Fine, I'll go with Aliens Acid Blood. That has never seemed to fail yet in movies. It does seem to. Oh, do you think Alien's blood could melt through Wolverine?
He would regenerate, wouldn't he?
But could it might melt through his adamantium claws? Do you reckon?
Do his claws regenerate? I assume they do.
I'm actually not sure. His skeleton.
His skeleton does. So he has those bone claws in Logan.
The thing is, there's a moment in the comics where Wolverine fell into like a volcano, and all that was left of him was his skeleton that he then regenerated back from.
So I would probably say it would.
I'd say as long as his brain isn't harmed, he can regenerate anything.
Yeah, no, that's probably true, isn't it?
Anyway, so yes, I guess I'll get alien's blood.
Aliens.
But I still say love is the most creepiest weapon of all.
Emotion, yeah, and that is creepy, isn't it?
All right then, Rob.
Yes.
You have the opportunity to make a brand new horror versus movie. We've had Freddy versus Jason and Alien versus Predator. Give us, and you can use you could use Bagul versus Samara. Anything you want. Make us a brand new horror versus movie and tell us about it.
Chucky versus Leatherface.
How's that gonna go?
Not well.
He's just gonna look at Chucky, who's just stabbing at his ankle, and he's gonna go. Yeah, just instantly. That's a shit film.
That is a shit film. No, I would do. So what I would do? Oh, you haven't seen either of these films, which kind of sucks.
What are they?
Well, it's Annabelle and Dead Silence.
I can't see those films.
You can't see. Do you want to tell the audience why you can't see those films?
Dylan has a fear, an absolutely crippling fear of puppets. It's a phobia of puppets. I haven't researched the name for it, but if I watch them, I will see them, I will cry hysterically and possibly faint. And Dead Silence is a horror film all based around ventriloquist puppets.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, it's true, because when we were living in uni, for the second year of uni, I remember watching Team America on the TV in like the sort of living area, and he walked out, saw what I was watching, then just walked back in his room.
Yeah, that was a good time when people thought it was really funny to send me through links the trailer to Dead Silence, and I laughed and killed them.
Yeah. So what I would have the dummy from. Oh no, I'd have Chucky versus Annabelle. Chucky versus Annabelle, because Annabelle's like supernatural, right?
Well, I think from
demon.
what the Conjuring universe has told us, because I've seen the second one, sadly, and apparently the demon isn't inside the doll; it's just using the doll
As a conduit.
That's my understanding. I think from how they've explained it, like I believe the Warren said in the film that demons don't possess things; they manipulate them.
Yeah. So I reckon, and also Chucky's
Chucky will just stab the doll, and the doll won't fight back or anything.
No,
like the
Chucky's
Warrens have
also-
said, if you destroy the vessel, the demon just fucking.
Chucky's also possessed, though, isn't he?
Yeah, but he
Possessed by
inhabits
voodoo.
the body he's inside of.
Yeah.
Because of voodoo.
Yeah.
You've seen the first Child's Play, right? It's like a voodoo chant he uses.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does the film go? Why does Chucky want to kill Annabelle?
Because he's a fucking serial killer, isn't he? And also,
Well, he ran out of humans, so he went to dolls.
yeah. So the premise is the fact that for whatever reason, because like they even tried chucking out Annabelle, didn't they? In the first, you haven't seen the first one, but they tried throwing Annabelle out.
And I imagine she just returns magically.
Yeah, she does, right?
They always do that.
And obviously, I think there would be a pretty believable circumstance where Chucky and Annabelle were wound up together. Now,
Isn't the idea of the Annabelle doll is originally a Raggedy Ann doll?
the actual Annabelle doll
Yeah.
it doesn't look anything like what it looks like in the films.
Well, of course not. Likeness and that.
No.
Hasbro would fucking
Yeah.
sue them.
Also, the Raggedy Ann doll is just not scary looking.
Well, again, that could be even more scary, though.
Yeah, in a way.
You look at the Annabelle doll in the Conjuring films, you're like, why would anyone bring this into their fucking house, ever, under any circumstances?
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
There was a funny moment in the Haunted House movie you mentioned before, because that parodies Annabelle, and Marlon, chains up Annabelle, puts her in a coffin, buries it, and sets her on fire, and all sorts of things, and he just goes back into his bedroom, and there she is.
And then he has sex with her as well, which is fucking funny as shit.
Yeah, that was very graphic. And there's a moment where, like, apparently she turns into, like, an obsessed girlfriend, like, sets his clothes on fire and
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. Like the fucking.
Okay, so, quick spoilers. Who wins this fight, Chucky or Annabelle? Does the
well-
demon at all fuck with Chucky?
Well, yeah, exactly, and I think that'd be quite
What
funny.
can it do to him?
Well, I mean, whatever it kind of wants, right? Because it manipulates. So, like, it could possess, like, Chucky and could be in two places. It could be in both of them.
That'd be cool.
I think that'd be kind of cool. And then maybe they team up and fuck up everything.
Well, what memory serves and what I know
this
about
is-
the Annabelle doll, the demon just wants human souls, whereas Chucky wants to get back a human body. He wants to be back inside a human body.
Yeah.
He hates being a doll.
I feel that, like, those two could work something out for their own ends.
A team up.
So, yeah, so it'd be like Batman versus Superman when they
knew
team up at the end.
And then Wonder Woman comes in and punts Chucky a mile.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely got to get Gal Gadot in there because, like, you know, star
She's-
signification.
She's too busy being Cleopatra now and everyone's pissed off about it.
She's Cleopatra.
Apparently, she's going to be Cleopatra and everyone's pissed off about it because she's not Egyptian.
In what film?
I don't know, a film about Cleopatra. I can't remember.
If it's called Cleopatra, I'm going to be really pissed off.
Right, next question for me. Horror
Yeah,
Maestro.
Yeah.
Spooky.
What, in your opinion,
Ooh.
is not done enough in horror films?
Ah.
Like something that you like that's not done enough in horror films.
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere.
We'll get onto this in a little bit, but me and Rob are constantly at odds about this because I personally hate jump scares and Rob understands them as a fundamental necessary tool in the machinations of horror. However, I feel that atmosphere has taken a big back seat for sensationalism, for trailer, for appeal, just to put bums in seats rather than further the genre of horror. Atmosphere can be the most dreaded thing ever because, like you said earlier, the fear of the unknown. Like, for example, H.P. Lovecraft and Ridley Scott understand that the human mind can can terrify a person any more than anything you can ever show them. The human mind knows what it's afraid of and will absolutely terrify you to your bone. Atmosphere, the right amount. For example, Stanley Kubrick's Shining is a perfect example of atmosphere. You can show just 4 straight minutes of Danny on his big wheel just turning corners. And the atmosphere is building and building and building. You're on the edge of the seat, you're tense, what the fuck's going to happen? And nothing keeps happening. And that's key. That's key. In a fucking Insidious movie, you would have had a big demon show up and go blah, 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 blah. But all it kept going was building and building. And that's the dread. That's the dread. The atmosphere is just how long it goes. And that's the dread.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing with the Insidious film, the first Insidious film, is that it was great until they showed the demon. And you're like, okay, that's what the monster looks like. It's not scary anymore.
And then you see him in his Santa's workshop,
Yeah.
fucking making his little sex toys. And
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like once you see the monster, it's not scary anymore.
I think
You're
the
like,
second
that's
she
what it
put on
looks
that
like.
fucking gas mask, I was like, is anyone taking this seriously anymore? She needs to put on a fucking... Oh god, I hate those films so much. But I think atmosphere is really lacking from a lot of horror sort of thing. Like, you can have someone just wandering a corner, and don't get me wrong, don't say, oh, so you really like the Paranormal Activity films because nothing happens there. No, there's a difference between nothing happening and nothing happening that should be happening. In the Paranormal Activity films, nothing's happening, but you know why, because the ghost is doing a slow burn. In a film like, for example, again, The Shining, nothing's happening and you know something should be. You know something's coming and it's coming at any moment now. There's an urgency that's not met, and that's the distinction.
I think another thing that I don't like is when they put like a jump scare. I get why they do it, but when they put a jump scare in the trailer of a horror film, because then when you watch the film, you're like, okay, it's coming, and there it is. Whereas I reckon if you had a horror film where they didn't put any of the jump scares in it, you'd be way more shook up if you saw them.
Not to mention, too many jump scares are telegraphed now. You see the child slowly approaching, like the music box that's making a noise, or they see a shadow in a tent and they're gonna lift up the shadow, the tent's door slowly. Nothing's gonna be there. She's gonna turn around and it's there. It's so telegraphed now.
It's a fake out. It's a code. It's a code and convention of horror.
It's like the game, Five Nights at Freddy's. You know you fucked up and the jump scare's going to come. If you're anticipating a jump scare, the jump scare's failed. just because you've still surprised someone does not mean you've scared them. That is you've got a reaction out of someone. You have not frightened them. You've surprised them. Fuck you.
But it gets your heart beating, though. I think one of the best jump scares is in The Descent. When you first see... if anyone's watched The Descent, you'll know what I'm talking about. When you first see the creatures in The Descent, that first jump scare is great. That is properly done because you're not expecting it.
What's right? Just like in the originals game Slender. You're collecting the notes in the woods and you look around and out of nowhere, Slender Man's there. And you just... Obviously, YouTubers love to fucking, put on a Phantom of the Opera fucking performance for it. But you genuinely do absolutely freak out.
It's all good.
Jump scare is meant to invoke fight or flight.
Yeah. And you can also go as far as that fucking maze game.
Maze game?
The maze game. It's like a maze game that you play, and then all of a sudden, I think it's the Exorcist face. Yeah.
Sorry, I just realised... Because that was a big thing for a while, recording people's reactions to that.
Yeah. But it's relative because it's like you're playing a maze game. You're not expecting to be scared.
Again, just like that video of that car that's driving along that peaceful highway and out of nowhere, face just screams.
Yeah, that was a German advert that I think was supposed to be about. I think it was supposed to be like road safety. Funnily enough, it's like
it's funny how parody jump scares do it better than horror films.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Because again, no one was expecting it, and that's what made it so good. And don't get me wrong, you could then say, well, people are not watching a horror film, so they're expecting to be scared. Not constantly. They could be watching some characters talking. Like you mentioned before, like even when they showed that first demon, they did during the day. So anyone watching the horror film would not have expected it then.
And that's why I like the first Insidious, because that makes stuff scary during the daytime. I can also go back to Texas Chainsaw, like... That's when bad stuff happens during the day.
But we're doing the second one where there's that creepy mother and the piano's playing and they hear the baby through the baby monitor. And,
I mean that's in the first one.
No, that's in the second one.
Oh no, it's the second one. Sorry.
To be honest, the second one meshes up with the first one. Like that's why this happened.
Similar. And also the second Insidious is it's like we moved out of that house because it was scary, but we're gonna move into a even creepier house.
So yes, damn it, we did it without realising we talked about jump scares. We'll come back to it, but atmosphere, I think, is immensely lacking in horror.
I think The Others, if anyone's seen The Others, that is a very
that's incredibly good. And the twist on the end is so good.
Oh, it really is. It always gets me. And
we won't ruin it, but this is a horror film that's a 12. It's a 12, but it's still so good.
And I'm going to go and talk about something that's not technically a horror, but Doctor Who. Doctor Who. That the phrase that comes from hiding behind your sofa comes from Doctor Who. I'm going to cite...
I know where Rob's going with this.
Everyone talks about the Weeping Angels, okay? And yes, those guys are scary, although they are overused. But those gas mask zombies...
Empty Child.
The Empty Child... My God, that is atmospheric and I'm actually honestly getting a bit chills just remembering it.
And you know what was really good? You wouldn't just see the Empty Child appear, electronics would start to slowly mess around, a warning sign that not that he's there, but he's getting closer.
Yeah, and
that was good.
It's season 9 Doctor Who. It's Eccleston. That is absolutely incredibly creepy.
Absolutely.
And it's not even horror. And that's the thing. It's Doctor Who, if you ask 100 people what's Doctor Who, they say, it's sci-fi.
I don't know. That episode, I'd say that episode is a horror episode. Because Doctor Who has different writers.
And that's the thing, though, because you're not expecting to be scared by it.
No. What about The Silence? Did you find them quite scary? I'm on record as not liking the Matt Smith Doctor, but I thought The Silence was quite spooky.
It was definitely one of those things where it's sort of you forget them after you see them.
Yeah, so you have to write on your arm and shit.
And it could, go into real life, much like with the first Weeping Angel episode where they had loads of shots of different statues. So you're oh my God, any sort of statue could be a Weeping Angel that's just not moved yet.
I didn't like the follow-up episode of the Weeping Angels that much, but one bit I did actually quite like was with the guy who was talking through the radio, then starts talking about, yes sir, they killed me 5 minutes ago. They broke my neck.
Yeah.
To be honest, that was kind of fucking
That
scary.
is creepy.
And the Weeping Angels are just using his voice and they're speaking to him as that guy they just killed. That was pretty good.
And that's like one of those, like that plot, sort of that twist that like you think, okay, he's talking, he's still alive, but there's like, no, I've been dead for some time.
Yeah.
And, that is good. That is good. Now,
I can't remember how he beat them. I think he made like a big beam of light that fucked them all over.
Well, in the first one, the TARDIS disappears, so they're all looking at each other. So
Oh,
they don't
yeah.
move. Yeah.
Arseholes, aren't they? And the start of the second one is the Weeping Angel in a shipping container that has a camera that's looking on them that you find out is ended up being looped. So the Weeping Angel can move.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gets closer to the camera.
Yeah. And what's sort of quite interesting about the Weeping Angels, I think, is that the fact that they kill you actually in the most benign way. They just send you back in time.
But you can still live a nice life. You're just no longer in their way.
Exactly. Like which is kind of cool in a way, I think.
Part of me kind of feels that would contradict a lot of what the Doctor's rules on time travellers. For example, when Rose wanted to save her father, and the Doctor's like, well, now a man is living in here that wasn't meant to be. The Weeping Angels are doing the exact same things. They're throwing someone that shouldn't be living in there in that time when they are.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
To be fair, there's so many contradictions in the Doctor. Like, well, hey, how come that can happen? That's a fixed point in time. And how come you could change that? Well, that was fine.
I mean, the thing is, when you're the longest running TV show in history, you can't be perfect, right?
I think fixed point in time is a bit of a crutch, though.
Yeah, maybe, but it's so like. Oh, I mean, I'm sure there are Doctor Whovians out there, as they are actually properly called, that do have the real explanations that we, as the average newbies, don't really understand.
Okay, I'm going to quickly reel us back to horror. We will do a Doctor Who episode in the future, I promise. If you want it, comment below.
Yeah.
But if
you don't want it, we're still going to do it anyway.
I have one final question for you, Rob, and this will be the last question.
Yeah.
If you could create a brand new horror trope, not cliche, a brand new horror trope, what would it be? What would you like to see done in horror movies going forward? Always done. This is a new. You can create a new horror trope.
Well, I mean, I said this before, and this does sort of relate to atmosphere, but making stuff scary all during the daytime.
What, so someone goes to flush the toilet and nothing happens?
Well, might do that. But something...
I don't think horror's ever touched the toilet.
It must have done somewhere. But I think if you can make a film that's scary, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be supernatural, because I think, you have like the Conjuring series and stuff where it's like, oh, it's dark and now the supernatural demon is going to jump out and scare everybody. No, if you could have like reality. So for instance, I think a scary film during the daytime could be like related to like a stalker, like a real human being, because that's what's really scary, because stalkers are real, right?
Well, have you seen It Follows?
Yeah.
So something like that. Something that's just endlessly chasing you.
Well, sort of, but It Follows, like, it is supernatural, whereas like a stalker, like if someone had a stalker, like that's really scary because it's real and it's not made up and it's not supernatural. Like stalkers are real people, and
so what exactly is the trope here?
Well, the fact that it's not just like dark, and I think it'd be making horror more real. So like it strays away from like
away from the norm, more accessible to all facets of life.
Yeah, and so like it's sort of close to home kind of thing. So like Texas Chainsaw, there's no like supernatural stuff. It is just like potentially like people like that could exist, right?
I think it's probably a lot harder to make horrors these days because of modern technology. That's why they have to put you in rural America where there's no like phone signal and everything.
Yeah.
You're going to struggle to make a horror in the middle of the day in New York City in an office.
Well, unless you have like a human stalker, right? So like someone that like you can mess with them, like they think they're being followed, but like they don't really know. But then it's sort of like the pressure adds up, and they know they're being followed by someone. And also like with like modern day technology, it's easier to stalk people.
So it's sort of like that film with Elijah Wood, Psycho.
The
one that's- the
yeah,
one that
I know
from
the
that-
one you mean. Is it called Psycho though? I think it's
Maniac or
called
something
Maniac,
like that.
that's it. Yeah.
For it's from the first movie of the year, and he's obviously a killer stalker sort of thing.
Yeah, it'd be that, but like, I like that sort of stuff. That it wouldn't just have to be dark and scary. It could be daytime and also scary because people get stalked like during the day and like all the time. So it's like the constant sort of like pressure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd like to bring back films that are more like close to people, so they're like that is actually something that could happen.
To be honest, a lot of Japanese horror includes a lot of horror taking place during the day as well. Have you ever seen One Missed Call?
I've heard of that film.
It's basically, sadly, just like The Ring and Shutter, they made an American version of it because fuck knows
Because
why.
Americans have to make American versions of everything.
Basically, the film's premise is you receive a phone call, but when it rings, it's not your ringtone, and it's always this strange, almost music box-like ringtone.
Yeah.
You can never answer it, it immediately goes away, and then you get a voice message, and you hear yourself being murdered, and the date of the voice message is in the future.
Yeah.
You hear yourself die in the future.
Yeah, but that's still like supernatural, right? I would make a horror film that has no supernatural stuff in it. Like it's all grounded in reality, and so when people watch it, they're like, "Oh shit, that could potentially happen to me."
But doesn't that give people the parameters of safety? Because yes, you say it could happen to me, but it also means if it's not supernatural, it's preventable. I have resources at my hand to fight reality, but there's nothing you can do against the supernatural.
Yeah, but then with supernatural, when you're watching the film, it's like, oh well, it's supernatural. I know that's like not real.
Well, that's why I like Sinister so much, because obviously in so many films when they fight the supernatural, like we mentioned earlier with Your Haunted House, you can call in an exorcist, or you could call in go to the old woman next door who's a mystic and she'll tell you how to defeat the evil. But when it came to Sinister, this guy was like God. He was like an evil pagan god. You could not defeat him. You could not survive him. And I think there's another dread in that, where there's an inevitable death. And no matter how much you fight and struggle, there's nothing you can do.
Also, I think not killing off the monster is a great way to keep your franchise alive.
Exactly.
I mean, for Friday the 13th is, that's a prime example.
Although when it came to the Sinister sequel, that's another thing in horror I want to quickly beat up. Stop making everyone who dies unlikable assholes, because that's not scary. Seeing innocent people die, seeing good people die is scary, because the people watching your films are those people. Like in the sequel of Sinister, the only person that died was a wife beater and beat his children and all that. So I saw him burn alive. I didn't give a fuck.
And people like that. People like the satisfaction of like bad guys dying. It's like John Wick, right? John Wick is very on the nose. It's like they killed his dog, so he kills everyone. You're like, fuck yeah, dude, fucking, light them the fuck up.
You don't mess with dogs.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what feels good.
Like in any natural disaster movie, all the people are dying, but you see a dog running away, and you want, I hope the dog survives.
Yeah, like Pirates of the Caribbean. You're like, come on, no, dog, don't die.
I don't know. You want that monkey to die.
Yeah, but it's a monkey, not a dog. I would eat a monkey brain, but not a dog brain. And like Taken as well. It's like they've got his daughter, and then he's torturing the shit out of this guy. Like, can you imagine if that guy was actually just like an innocent dude? It would be way more, like gut-wrenching, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And again, have you seen the Rob Zombie Halloween films?
Yeah.
They almost make you root for Michael because everyone he kills was an asshole. The bully, the nurse, the guy at the truck stop that he got his thing from, everyone was an unlikable piece of shit. So it makes Michael Myers' murders cathartic.
He looks like the good guy. He's like an anti-hero, isn't he?
There's a reason why people find Freddy Krueger scary, is because everyone he killed was just an innocent teenager, not even a bad kid. Just you need to make people feel like they could be threatened by the threat in the film.
Yeah.
Hence why the fucking the Purge movies took off so well, because everyone was able to instantly picture themselves being victimized in this situation.
Most people, I think, like to think that they would purge, but honestly, they would not.
I honestly wondered why in those films everyone didn't just flee to Canada and Mexico for the night.
They probably wouldn't let them in. They'd be like, no, you can't fucking come in here, eh?
I don't know, you know.
Get the fuck out.
Both of those countries are going to get a massive spike in their economy for the night.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Like the purge spike in Mexico for like economy.
Obviously, we like to think deep down everyone's a rabid psychopath waiting for the opportunity. That's why stuff like Lord of the Flies, like the idea that every human is feral, like the Joker from The Dark Knight. Everyone's one bad day away from being absolutely nuts. But realistically, human self-preservation and rationality means we're not going to sacrifice our own comfort just so we can get our knobs end away.
And now, let's carry on to a point about horror films that are sort of a different kind of breed of horror. And I'm talking genuinely like uncomfortable horror films to watch.
Well, we're talking like
Cannibal Holocaust.
Snuff films.
Cannibal Holocaust.
I Spit on Your Grave.
I Spit on Your Grave. Like films that it's
What about
horror,
it?
but it's a different kind of horror. Like it's genuinely uncomfortable. Like they actually want to horrify.
Are you suggesting? I'm just trying to understand the premise of mentioning them. Are we saying do these deserve to be considered horror? Do they deserve to be films?
Well, no,
or...
it's the the idea that it's a different breed of horror that isn't really done anymore. Mostly because they're controversial, and in a way, I think
I Spit on Your Grave got a remake.
Yeah, it did, which is as uncomfortable as the first one. I will say I have watched both.
To be honest, it's an easy premise to make uncomfortable. If those of you, I can't be asked to describe it, but it's a film that very instantly gets to the heart of human discomfort to see visually.
Yeah, and it especially the first one. It's really.
The first one I think they go in the butt.
The first, it's really it's very much focused on, and it does not make it goes 110%.
I want to quickly ruin something for the listeners. Check it out. There's nudity, and they're going to check this out now and feel bad for being excited about the nudity.
Yeah, they are. And Cannibal Holocaust as well. That film sparked a lot of controversy.
The director had to face so many inquiries, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Because he actually made his actors kill live animals and shit on camera.
If it was legal, Kubrick would have done that.
Yeah, he probably would have done. But that is one thing I think about directors, that they say, oh well, I need to actually have my actors shitting themselves because that's real. It's like, well, I don't know if you know this, mate, but actors, their whole job is to act.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because last thing we need to get into is a debate about method acting.
Yeah, that'll be another time.
Yes, it certainly will.
Another time. But I think uncomfortable horror films where it is generally unpleasant to watch, those films do have their place, and it is part of horror because it actually does horrify you.
I would say it is absolutely necessary and in fact important to portray the ugliness that humanity can achieve on film. Obviously film is by nature a representation and therefore it's unable to be entirely accurate, otherwise that's a documentary. But obviously the most evil facets of human capability being shown visually is in itself uncomfortable. Yeah. Again, I think that's why films like Silence of the Lambs itself was so phenomenal, because psychopaths like Hannibal Lecter and the other guy, Buffalo Bill, are easily actual people.
Yeah, and also Silence of the Lambs isn't a hugely violent film.
Not at all.
I mean, there is violence in it for sure, but it's not a gore fest by any means. Again, going back to your point about atmosphere, and things like that. I think Hostel is a film that loads of people go to.
Torture porn.
Yeah,
which again has its place, with a human centipede.
Yeah, and maybe it was because Hostel, because I watched Hostel and it was built up loads of me by people, and maybe because it was built up loads that I didn't find. But actually, Hostel I didn't find as violent as everyone told me that it was going to be. A lot of it is kind of implied.
I think maybe you and I are perhaps a bit more jaded. I look at a film for example, Hostel and all that, and I'm seeing people getting their fingernails ripped off and all that. I'm thinking like, that's a good effect. Not so much, oh my god.
I find that with Saw as well.
Yeah,
I think, Saw.
I'd be willing to bet prosthetic people and special effects people had the time of their lives making all of those amazing doodads and all the person that sawed their arm all the way down to the elbow, and then you see their arm slowly split apart. That looks so cool.
Yeah. I reckon those guys had a blast.
All the nuns who've been listening up until now, they've switched off.
I mean, any nuns that have listened to even like a second of any of our other podcasts have definitely not been listening to this one. Speaking of which, The Nun, that film is shit.
Oh, that was another continuation of the Conjuring verse.
Yeah, it was. That film is shit, that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, absolute wank.
Yeah.
They contradict themselves so much in that film because they stated in that film that the reason she's a nun is so she can walk about in the abbey, which then begs the question, well then why was she still a nun in the second Conjuring? She just liked the clothes and like, yeah, this is me now, I'm Valak,
maybe she was just lazy and couldn't be bothered to change. In case she went back there, I don't know. That
quickly being said, and this is probably the reason it got its own spin-off movie, that scene in The Conjuring 2, I hate The Conjuring 2, when it's the scene with the painting, you see the hands grab the frame and then that comes forward. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's why it got its own goddamn movie.
Yeah. So, we've been over sort of uncomfortable, like, nasty films. But
actually,
what about...
Sorry, I don't think we've gone too far. For example, I just want to quickly mention The Human Centipede. Because that's another uncomfortable, realistic body horror. Not just gore fest. I think body horror should be addressed as well.
Continue.
Well, as for those of you unaware of, I don't think anyone's unaware, even South Park did a fucking Human Centipede spoof.
The Human Centipede, wasn't it?
Yeah, as the idea of Apple fusing people together with iPads. It was really good. But obviously a maniac doctor, because there are only two kinds of doctors, the good ones and the maniacs, decided to sew humans together from their mouth to an orifice, so that a human could technically have one entire gastric pass. Obviously not someone who understands how the human body works too well, because that could never functionally happen. But it was an interesting idea sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which end of the... Obviously everyone would rather be at the front, I imagine you would as well. So you have to eat, but then... Even, obviously, no one wants to be shot at in the mouth, but having to do that into someo's mouth isn't very pleasant either.
What was it? Should I eat the vanilla paste or the cuttlefish? Be strong, Kyle.
Here, I believe in you. Well, there goes the tone we'd set until that.
I think also, like, The Human Centipede, like, that film, like, that will draw people in, right?
That had two sequels.
If you've seen the trailer for the first one, like, that's going to draw you in, like instantly anyway, because you're like, Jesus Christ, who thinks of this stuff? Because there's nothing like that film, really, The Human Centipede, is there?
There's a lot of, again, body horror as a genre has existed for a long time, but it's more been the idea of dysmorphism, like the idea of attaching additional limbs, or pretty much just like treating people like Lego.
Yeah, it's like surgery.
Yeah,
like sick kind of surgeries and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you could argue the original body horror was for itself Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I don't know if Frankenstein is real. I mean, it is framed as like a Hammer horror, isn't it? But I think the actual sort of book.
It depends on who made the film. There's been like 9,000 Frankenstein movies.
I think Frankenstein's even in Scooby-Doo, isn't it?
Probably.
I think. I suppose the original book of Frankenstein isn't really classed as a horror, is it?
I'm not sure. I personally have not read it.
Oh, you're not. It's more to do with the fact that everyone sees the monster as this hideous thing, but actually it's sort of kind of caring, and it's that kind of thing. Although there is the thing, everyone says, oh, it's not Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein's monster, it's a monster. Well, actually, Frankenstein, thinking about what he did, kind of monstrous.
Well, that's like the Moby Dick scenario. Who's the real monster here, sort of thing? Is it the creature or the one that's turned themselves into a monster?
Yeah, I think that's kind of neat as well. Personally, I like to be sort of, I like to question like who is the good guy and who is the bad guy. I like to sort of think about that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, in a lot of horror films, you see heroes willing to do things to survive that very much throw that in jeopardy. But we mentioned, so I think that was a good coverage of body horror. What about another genre? I think this was really big, maybe in the 90s or the early 2000s, home invasion horror. Because I know off the top of my head so many home invasion horrors, like The Strangers, there's Funny Games. The first Purge was a home invasion horror. There was one that came out a few years ago involving people wearing animal masks. They broke into the House of Hunters Mother's Day. That's a home invasion horror. That's pretty fucking creepy. So there's a whole collective genre of home invasion horror that obviously exists because our home is where we feel safest.
Yeah, it's where you're supposed to be. And again, like that, comes back to like where you're supposed to be in your comfort zone, and then it takes you out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So home invasion, I couldn't say I've ever been scared by her. Funny Games was like really unsettlingly uncomfortable, but for different reasons. Not so much that it was home invasion, but more what those two guys did. It was pretty much like two kids, like late teens, early 20s, break into a house and pretty much torture a family with games and stuff, and then end up killing them all. Really, like, and not just like they kill a kid. Like, they pretty much rifle a kid. It's fucking bad.
Yeah, Strangers as well, that's a good one.
Again, and why? Because the couple were innocent. She even asks before she dies, saying why, and the woman just says, because you were home.
Yeah, exactly. And
that is a terrifying
and that's
response.
the thing, like, when they haven't got any reason as to why they do it, they're just doing it as like, because you happen to be the loser that drew the short straw.
Life sucks.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get fucked.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like
and there's nothing you can do to control it.
Yeah, and you can thinking about that. If like they had been attacked by people that they'd screwed over or something, and they wanted revenge, you'd be like, oh, so these guys actually did some terrible stuff. So there's a reason why they hate them.
I think they'll turn it more into a thriller than a horror.
Yeah, more of a thriller. But like thinking about that is the fact that there's absolutely no reason why these people actually were doing the stuff. That's scary, because it's like when people do stuff for no reason, then there's no reasoning.
And you never find out what they look like as well. There is no face to the evil either. The more ambiguous and...
fear of the unknown.
Exactly, inevitable.
Yeah.
This inevitable... It has no human face to it, so it's nothing you can associate with it. You don't see whether the person is old, young, Jewish, black, Asian. You have nothing to base it on, so it's anything and everything.
Yeah. The only plot hole I will say about in home invasion horrors is that like the ones that take place in America is like, come on, like if you do that shit in America, you're getting shot.
Yeah, although, again, there are some states that have very strict gun laws where households aren't allowed weapons and all that. And again, like...
Well, it's harder to get guns, I guess.
I've noticed a lot of home invasion films take place around privileged houses that don't bother to be secure and all that, because they've lived such comfortable lives, nothing bad's ever happened to them.
And ironically, those guys could afford the nicest guns. That's another plot hole in Texas Chainsaw. It takes place in Texas and fucking no one has a gun.
I won't lie, that was a really funny bit. If you listen to the end of the first Purge, after all the shit's happened, you hear the news announcer saying, and Dallas has reported on the largest number of purges. A little son saying, fucking Texans. The state with all the guns have the highest number of purges.
But the thing is, I wouldn't want to purge in Texas because... like, everyone has guns. Like, I wouldn't want to... like, if someone said, hey, mate, do you want to break into this guy's house in Texas? I'd be like, no, because I'm going to get fucking shot, aren't I?
Well, theoretically, then, if the idea that guns actually prevents violence because of the fear of a gun, Texas should have the least amount of purges. Because everyone's afraid anyone they try and purge will get them first with their gun.
Yeah, but the purge isn't real, though. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what
but
the actual,
it's based on how it would work in the real world.
Yeah, but logically, if you're in a state where everyone has guns in their houses, you're not going to want to invade that house.
Unless you've got a bigger gun.
Well, yeah.
Or you have more people. There are always variables.
Well, yeah, you could do that. But I'm thinking about, like, well, not the second one where everyone's like rampaging around with like a flamethrower. And
Oh, I love how the Purge films. I think
it turned into Mad Max, didn't it? Like
Yes, it was absolutely beautiful. I think once you saw that Lincoln Memorial with Purge on each pillar, each individual letter, the girls who like had a diamond, what was it, like a diamond-studded AK-47.
Yeah, that fucking pimped out AK.
You know this film. This is the thing is, this is a series that's clearly not taking itself seriously anymore.
Yeah,
I think it was like election year. That was when it was balls to
Yeah,
walls.
it
The
was.
second one was the Punisher one. The guy who had a
Yeah,
tricked
yeah.
out car and was all that. That
Yeah,
was.
Mad Max and shit.
It had a guy walking around going around in a big truck that just had a Gatling gun in the inside that he just mowed people down with.
Also, she must have been really rich to have like a diamond-studded AK. Like, I would leave that gun at home, to be fair. I wouldn't risk losing it.
Well, that's the whole idea with the Purge people. Those that purge are always the wealthy. Those that take advantage of the poor and use them for their amusement, sort of thing.
I thought the whole point of the Purge was like, you could just do whatever you wanted.
Well, yes, that's what it is on the surface, but they mention in the films that it's mainly used to wipe out the poor, the unemployed, and the people that don't work, so the rich can maintain their control. And it's the rich that influence the voters to keep the Purge going.
Oh, right.
It has a level of politicalism in it.
Smells like communist propaganda.
Oh, could you imagine a Russian Purge?
Yes, it would be fucking amazing.
I would love to see...
It would be better than America, I reckon. It would be better than American Purge.
I don't know, all the guns would keep jamming as you try and shoot
no,
each
mate,
other.
Russians have AKs. Those guns, well, they do.
Yeah, they'll shoot anything.
AKs. Yeah, can you imagine some fucking old Russian dude with a fucking Mosin Nagant with a bloody bayonet sticking out? That would be fucking
Well, that's
sick.
the thing. I don't think Russia would purge, because again, the idea of the purge also falls along the line of privileged. Only people who have everything would feel they need to kill people to be at peace
So
with
basically,
life.
Putin would just walk around shooting people for a night. I mean, not that he couldn't do that anyway, but you know what I mean?
No, it's like, if all you have is the means to survive, why would you ever think about killing people? It's all about the idea of privilege sort of thing. The more you have, the more you want.
People you hate, though.
Oh yeah, obviously every now and then you might go kill your boss or something.
Yeah, like if someone did something really, really bad to me, I was like, I'm gonna go kill this motherfucker. And by the way, like if if someone did something really bad to me, and then I waited like a whole year and I still wanted to kill them, I probably but it probably would have been sufficiently bad if I haven't cooled down like by then.
To be honest, that was my real big problem with the second purge. Because obviously the guy wanted to go out, wait for the purge, and kill the guy that ran over his son or killed his son, right?
Yeah.
Why did he wait until the start of the purge to head over to the guy?
Yeah, what an idiot.
Why not go into his neighbourhood, park at the end of the road, wait until the purge, or even just wait like 10 minutes before the purge starts, because who's going to call in a kill?
Yeah, can you imagine that? Like, it's like the starfish from Finding Nemo. Today's the day! Like,
The guy, you know, he is like, okay, purge has started, I'll just wade through this city of death to get to my target, you know, when all I had to worry about a few hours ago was traffic. Now I have to worry about sniper rifles.
yeah, exactly.
But don't get me wrong, obviously, yeah, but if he did that, we would have had a shit movie. It would just be
Yeah,
a guy
it
just
would be a
waiting in a
shit
car for his time to just blow someone's head
Yeah,
off.
he's just fucking scrolling through Facebook or some shit.
Seeing all the purge tweets.
You're seeing all the purge tweets, exactly, and then like kills a guy, takes a selfie.
That's another thing. The last thing I'll say about the purge, the fact they named the fourth one, because there was the first one, second one, and the third one was election year. And then they named...
There's a fourth one?
Yeah, you know what they called it? The First Purge. It's a
Okay.
It's a prequel to the first one.
When's it set?
It's set before the first one, so it's,
Yeah, obviously, but like what year? Is it set?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It's the idea of the founding fathers first
Is
introducing
it?
this idea.
Oh, that sounds sick. Can you imagine a purge with muskets and stuff?
No, remember the Purge films had the new founding fathers? That's what I
Oh,
meant.
sorry.
That would be.
But could you imagine that? Just like someone breaks into someone's house and there's just someone with a cannon loaded with grape shot in it. Just
Yeah, I think that's what the Revolutionary War was. But
yeah,
no,
but it only happened once.
and it takes place on a little secluded island. It's like a trial. It's really bad. The thing I hate about that and why
Is
I
it
brought
bad? Is it not good?
No, it's not very good.
Yeah.
The reason I brought it up is because of its fucking name. They called it The First Purge. So it's like, oh, I watched The First Purge the other day. What, the home invasion film? No, The First Purge. What do you mean? The fourth one. The fourth one's called The First One.
Don't you know? Don't you even numbers, bro?
I fucking hate that so much.
Now we've talked about uncomfortable horror. We've talked about cozy conventions of horror. We talked about home invasion horror and The Purge. But there is, and we've touched upon this earlier. But
Horror porn.
okay, but that's number 2 on the list.
That is a thing.
But horror parodies.
Oh, spoofs, like the scary movies and
Haunted
others.
House.
Haunted House.
And my favourite, Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I think that's more of a horror subversion, like Cabin in the Woods and the spoof.
Well, it's a parody of horror, isn't it, really? Because it takes all the codes and conventions of horror and flips them up.
But it's not
on-
referencing any established horror mediums. It's the setting piece of a horror film that
yeah, it
subverts what you're
Well,
expecting.
it is. So it's Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's.
I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but it's the the two in a kind of traditional horror film. It would be the kind of hillbilly rednecks are the bad guys. They're going to go massacre the college kids. Where in fact it's
All accidents.
It's all not that. Actually, they are the good guys, and the college kids are the bad guys.
I'd say there are really no good guys or bad guys. It's just a collection of fuck ups. I mean, there is that one
they
kid.
are
There is
bad
that one
guys.
college kid who's a little bit unhinged. But
a little
that's
bit.
it.
He's massively unhinged.
And everyone's looking at him like, what the fuck's your problem? He's like, yeah, we're going to get them. I've got this axe in my hand.
Yeah, but they're all like on board with trying to, kill the two hillbillies that are just trying to make, again, a horror cliche. They're trying to like fix up this cabin in the woods, right?
Yeah, but it's like their holiday home.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's definitely, I think Tucker and Dale is definitely a horror parody for sure, because it takes the cozy conventions of what people would think horror.
I'm not
are,
sure
and
I'd put it along the lines of like Scary Movie, which is basically
No,
a horror film of horror films.
I think it's more subtle than Scary Movie. Scary Movie
Better
films
written.
are very much on the nose.
Fun fact: that Scary Movie was the original title for Scream, the Wes Craven movie.
Yes, it was.
That he made to, in a way, take the mick out of horror movies.
Yeah, Scream does, it references like codes and conventions of horror.
It mentions codes and conventions of horror. There is that 1 minute, that one scene I do love, where the guy is watching a horror film saying, "He's behind you, you idiot," and the ghost killer's actually behind him. I think that's really clever.
Yeah, that is fun. And
they reference like 500 horror films in the film.
yeah, and so they also they very directly reference specific films.
Wes Craven himself
In Scary Movie.
Oh, in the Scary Movie, yes.
Yeah, they definitely reference like specific like films that they parody, right?
Well, yeah, I can't believe the last one they did, number 5. I think they fucking did War of the Worlds and Saw. And,
Did they? Is
and
that
I
the
think they
one-
also did what was that? M. Night Shyamalan, The Village.
Oh, did they do that in 5? I watched the one with Charlie Sheen where they do
That was
Black
3.
Swan. Was that the third
Oh wait,
one?
oh no, Charlie Sheen was at the bit.
4.
They did Black Swan in the 4th. Number 3 had Charlie Sheen because they did Signs, but he was at the big.
Black Swan had the Black Swan one also had Charlie Sheen in it. Like,
He was
at
only at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was him.
The one that he was in at the whole one was number 3, where they did Signs
was it?
and
Yeah.
The Ring.
Yeah, but in that one they did Black Swan and Mama.
Oh yes, Mama. That was a horror film that was only good for the first half, and then the second half
Yeah.
was the climax was such wank.
I really didn't like it either.
Oh, you
I-
see the big floating ghost woman, and it
Yeah.
looks like something out of Corpse Bride.
Yeah, and again, like we said, like once you show the monster, it's not scary anymore. Like, cause you're like, that's what it looks like, and yeah, it looks pretty gross. But other than that, well, now I know what it looks like. So
Oh
now,
yeah, the most tense moment in that film is when the little girl just tells the babysitter not to open the door. And
Yeah.
she's thinking about it, and you see nothing, but that
Yeah.
was just like, fucking hell.
yeah, exactly. It's like, and the thing is, like, that's again like creepy kids, like The Shining being a pro, like creepy kids. That's a codes and convention horror, but the thing is, child actors are can be very hit and
Crap.
miss. Yeah, they can be very hit and miss.
I struggle to think of a good one personally. Can you think of a good one?
Millie Bobby Brown is pretty good. You haven't watched Stranger Things, have you?
No. The
she's
kid
pretty
I
good.
hate the most was the little boy from The Ring. I fucking hated that little asshole who was talking to Samara while his mum had like 2 days to live. It was like, oh yeah, by the way, Samara talks to me. She shows me all these things. Like, it's okay, Billy.
Yeah.
I've set her free. You helped her?
And I will be honest, the Babadook, that kid is actually quite good. Although his character, I fucking hate.
You're not allowed
But
to. He's autistic.
Or
I think that's what it was. Like the mother, the kid.
the actual kid's autistic.
No, the
actor's autistic.
No, the character. The idea was that he probably was autistic or had ADHD, but the mother refused to drug him, wasn't it?
I don't know if it was.
Actually-
there's loads of theories about the Babadook.
Oh yeah, I was about to
film.
say. Supposedly there never is a Babadook, and it's all about the mother going through the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah, there is that, isn't there? But I think that kid's like all right as an actor. But no, there are some really bad. And things like I don't really blame the kids because like they're kids, they're not fully like aware of how to act.
I don't care. Don't be in a film then. If you can't act, you don't deserve to be in a film.
Yeah, but you have to have children though in a film if you're gonna cast a child.
Why not? Hey, there are a lot of out of work dwarfs. Actually, fun fact here. You're aware of Children of the Corn, right?
Yes.
Obviously, that was a film where the collection of actors were children, but the head of the child, the one that played the main kid, was actually an adult. It was one of those people that had one of those like diseases. I don't know if it's a disease or one of those things where they retain the look of a child and the voice of a child, but they're like 40 years old. And they actually exist. And that kid was actually the head of that film. I can't remember his name. Fucking
I don't know.
Malachi or something like that. Oh no, the other kid. And that's what he was. And it was so cool. So it was an actual, genuine adult actor that looked like a kid.
Yeah, but like that's an anomaly, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I think...
It's like you couldn't really have Kevin McAllister as like...
I think he was already psychopathic enough.
A grown-ass adult, could you? Like Moaning Mercer in Harry Potter, she was like in her 30s, I think, when she did that role.
I did not know that.
Which makes it even kind of weirder when she's doing that bathroom scene in Goblet of Fire. Because I think Radcliffe was only like 16, maybe.
Best not to think about.
No. Not that I spend time thinking about it. But no, I think, just thinking of sort of like child actors, they can be good and they can be bad. I think, Danny in The Shining, I think that kid's actually kind of good.
Again, I'm afraid this is where we're at very much odds because he, again, annoyed the shit out of me. Especially with,
Yeah, do you know...
As someone that's read the book, and believe it or not, Stephen King actually said he hated Stanley Kubrick's
The
Shining.
Bookmaster race, yeah.
In the book. No, don't get me wrong. The Shining, I mentioned it earlier as my point of atmosphere. It's an amazing horror film.
Is, yeah.
But the main character is meant to be Jack. And it's all about how he's unhinged and slowly being corrupted, and that's where the horror is.
I can totally see why King doesn't like that film, because Wendy is supposed to Wendy's character in the film versus what she is in the book. They're bipolar opposites.
Absolutely.
So can you imagine being a writer writing this character, and then this director comes and then basically just says, well, I don't really like what you wrote, so I'm going to make my own thing. That would piss you off. I can see why he doesn't like it.
Wendy in the books was actually a really strong woman, and that's where Jack's resentment of her grew, from her emasculating him, or at least the idea that the wife doesn't obey him because his own father was abusive and his mother had to listen to his father.
Yeah, exactly. And I can totally see why King has issues with it, because if you wrote a book that was going to be turned into a film, you're like, great, my book's going to be turned into a film, and then the director does something so drastic like change your character completely, you'd probably have some issues.
Not to mention, there's been a lot of King films that people that made King's books into films that he loved. Green Mile and Shawshank, King absolutely adores.
He made a cameo in It too.
Yes.
The recent one. He made a cameo.
He also directed one of his films, Maximum Overdrive. King was that's the only book of his that he actually directed for the movie. And you know, he did the soundtrack for that.
Oh, it's going to be someone really famous, isn't it?
AC/DC.
Oh my god.
AC/DC did the soundtrack for Stephen King's movie Maximum Overdrive.
He also, didn't he direct like a made-for-TV film of The Shining by himself?
Yeah, he did one of his TV miniseries about it, and it was more book accurate.
I think, yeah, but the thing is, like, when you say The Shining, people are only ever going to think of Kubrick's film.
Well, that's because it was just so good.
Yeah, it really
Again,
was.
great horror film, terrible book adaptation.
Yeah, and, like, even the first It, like, that film now, it's, like, I love Tim Curry, but that film's not aged well. It just hasn't.
He's certainly electric with him. If memory serves, there were a few people they were going to get to be Pennywise before it was Tim Curry. One of them was Malcolm McDowell. He was the guy who played Alex in Clockwork Orange, and he also played Dr. Loomis in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. I'm Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah.
They were going to make him Pennywise.
And that's an interesting thing. It's about, like, how, like, clowns, like, phobias and stuff. Like, phobias of clowns. Coulrophobia, as it's called. How,
What was
like...
agoraphobia?
Coulrophobia, I'm pretty sure, is the phobia of clowns.
Okay.
How people, like, playing on people's fears. So much like with Pennywise, right, is that, you know, he plays on people's fears because, you know, that's, you know, what he does, isn't it? Like, the way that, so for instance, like, going through things, so, you know, people they're scared of, well, funny enough, believe it or not, people are scared of serial killers. There's fear of the unknown. People are scared of, like, kind of demons. So they sort of, I like sometimes how horror films, they delve into kind of, like, the human kind of condition and how they play on that. So people are scared of this
So you say the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise was much better at playing on people than Pennywise? Of Tim Curry's?
Yes. I think it was, yeah.
I would actually disagree.
Would you?
Because the reason I think the Tim Curry Pennywise is better and scarier is because he's less scary than Bill Skarsgård. The idea of Pennywise is like he's a Pied Piper. So the fact that he's so not scary makes him the most scary, because that means he could actually lure a child to him. He's so smiley, so friendly, and then when he's in reach, that's when he turns scary.
I think
the Bill Skarsgård fucking Pennywise, he couldn't lure anyone near him the way he was.
Yeah, I think there is that, but I think the way the film's made and the kind of performance that Pennywise Tim Curry does is it's pretty hammy.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're like, okay, so, like, to me, that's not hugely, like, scary. In fact, if anything, it's kind of funny now. Because I remember watching the first Pennywise, the first It, when I was a kid, and I thought it was scary, but then coming back and watching it, you know, as an adult, I was like, okay, it's actually not.
It is a slow burn, because remember, it was originally a TV miniseries, so if you watch the whole thing now, it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And fun fact, if memory serves, part 2 of the Skarsgård was longer than that.
Yeah, that was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, I think.
Christ.
And It too was way too long.
Could have done without, obviously, the gathering everything for the ritual of Chud and the turtle, which is the natural enemy of...
I also think Chud is like a sort of pejorative term for, like, a sort of right-wing conservative in America, a chud.
Do bear in mind that Stephen King wrote that book high on everything known to man.
Yeah, and then he had the weird child sex orgy, which...
Yes. And again, I love how when, obviously, the Skarsgård made it popular again, everyone was having a go at King for that scene, and it's like, I love how everyone's outraged by the child orgy, but everyone's perfectly fine with all the child murder.
Yeah.
Interesting priorities.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay, he might have been on drugs, but it's like if you sort of sat down and wrote, like, a thing about kids having sex with each other, that's kind of weird.
let's quickly stipulate that they were at least early teens, so it wasn't at an age where it's like absolutely impossible.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. It just kind of seems weird that like a grown ass man would write something like that.
Obviously, and again, he doesn't defend it. He just says, "Yeah, I was high as fuck. Don't know what you want me to say."
Yeah, I don't know. That's
There
just-
are books Stephen King actually doesn't remember writing because he admits he was so. Apparently, he doesn't remember writing Cujo.
Okay, yeah, but that's sort of like, oh yeah, sorry, I did this thing. I was drunk.
Hey, everyone forgave Michael Jackson. Thriller was that good. Fucking hell. Believe it or not, listeners, this has actually been a more intentional thing that we've more than gone over an hour because horror is such an incredible genre. It requires such immense attention to detail.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent all of, 2 minutes on spoofs? Because we got sidelined so much.
Yeah, I think we spent a couple of minutes on spoof. But the point is, they were just happy to be included.
Did you enjoy Cabin in the Woods? Quick, last little touch on spoofs?
Yeah, I did. Wouldn't rush to watch it again, but I did enjoy it. It was the concept of it was certainly sort of more refreshing than kind of the previous sort of spoofs and parodies that we'd seen. So I did like it. Yeah. I do love the whole concept, the idea that they've got all like these monsters and stuff like that. I think that's like that's a neat sort
that
of
one
thing,
scene when
yeah.
she releases them all and there's the hallway of guards and all the doors open and everything attacks them.
Yeah, that's some funny shit. I did like that a lot.
Guy gets impaled by a unicorn and all
Yeah.
that. Oh, shit.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like a unicorn, like something that's supposed to be seen as sort of like this sort of pure animal that's just laying hate upon like these poor bastards. Like, that's...
It is absolutely fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
But I want to talk now, maybe this will be the last thing, I'm not sure.
We'll see how far down the rabbit hole we go.
Found footage horror.
Ah.
I'm going to quickly name a couple of classics. Obviously, we have Cloverfield. Our personal favourite, obviously, we mentioned the Paranormal Activities before. Does it count as found footage if it's a set camera? I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, it does, because they say...
Rather than one you're carrying.
I think they say at the beginning of Paranormal Activity that this is the footage that we have recorded and put together, didn't they?
Obviously, Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, we've got an interesting story about that film.
A personal favourite of mine is called Grave Encounters. I absolutely love it as a horror film.
That's a good one.
There are many others, but let's get it started.
Yeah. So found footage. I
want to quickly interject a first point and say for a while it was beginning to get overplayed.
Yeah, definitely sort of 2008, 2009, that kind of those sort of times. That was when found footage was very, very high up.
It didn't help they made 6 Paranormal Activities.
Yeah, and also they made Paranormal Entity.
I didn't see that one.
They made 3 Paranormal Entities, which I think is the same people that made Sharknado.
Oh.
Yeah. I've watched the second one, which is them supposedly investigating John Wayne Gacy's house. It's not. But found footage, right. So let's start at the one that everyone knows, which is the Blair Witch Project. Now, obviously you are not watching this, but I have a little story about the Blair Witch Project.
Quick thing, have you seen the sequel to it, to Book of Shadows?
No.
I'll tell you about that later. It's insane.
Okay.
Go on.
Okay, so here's a story that I'm going to tell, and my parents don't listen to this, so it's fine.
All about how his life got flipped and upside
down. So basically, my first tattoo I got when I was 16.
Oh, yes.
Or was I 16, 17? Anyway, my mate at college, for Americans, college for us is high school to you. He built a tattoo gun out of a Meccano set with a little motor and Indian ink, which apparently
quickly
is
explain what
non-toxic.
Meccano is to us.
Meccano is sort of like Lego, but it's sort of like metal kind of pieces in a way. You can look at what Meccano is.
Tiny girders and tiny spanners and all that.
Yeah, things like that, and screws and bolts and stuff like that.
Right.
He built a tattoo gun, homemade tattoo gun out of it. And I was like, I want to tattoo. And I was doing film studies at the time, and we were studying, funnily enough, horror and found footage films. And I decided, oh, do you know what's going to be a fucking awesome tattoo? The symbol for the Blair Witch. And yes, I got that tattooed, and I still have it to this day. And no,
Why did it fade away?
it's in my skin. And no, actually, funnily enough, I don't like the Blair Witch film. But here's what's neat about the Blair Witch film is the fact that nothing like it had been done, before. And what happens is the marketing was fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was one of those early ones where they made you think the actors actually did fucking go.
Yes, they absolutely did. Because they set up a website and was putting about that, these people had really gone missing. And then they spliced together this, put together the film. But the fact is, when you watch the Blair Witch Project, obviously you know it's not real. So now it's really boring. But at the time, people were watching this and they genuinely believed that it was real. And people went out to these woods and actually went looking for these people because they thought they genuinely disappeared until eventually they said, hey, look, no, it's not real.
Why would you go into the
going out.
woods where they showed you a movie where it turns out a demon makes you purposely get lost and you can never escape?
Well, you don't really know, though. In the first film, it never really, shows. You don't actually see...
No, they definitely got, turned around. They weren't able to
Yeah.
follow the map and they got, they weren't
Yeah.
able to escape.
Yeah. And so people... it was that these people... The story that the marketing had given was that these people had gone missing, but here's the footage... And they were looking for this Blair Witch and this sort of weird stuff was happening. So that's what made the Blair Witch Project, the first one, actually scary for people at the time. Yeah.
Right. They did a similar thing with Paranormal Activity, made you think that was... And then right at the end, they had to disclose that it was all bollocks.
And also Paranormal Activity, their marketing was far more on the nose about, people are actually walking out of the cinema because it's too scary.
Oh, I hate that shit.
Yeah.
That's all come from the original bollocks about when they first showed The Exorcist, people went out the theatres.
Yeah. And I think the thing about that is, it's not because people are like, oh my god, it's going to be too scary and we're scared to death. It's people going, I feel like I've been issued a challenge. I'm going to sit through this entire film and I'm going to buy a ticket and I'm not going to leave because I'm better and everything.
I think the reason Paranormal Activity took off the way it did it because it made you so bored for so long, and when it did actually scare you, you would think it was absolutely amazing. Like if you ate nothing but crackers for a month, and then you ate a fucking chicken noodle thing, you think, oh my god, these are the best noodles ever. But that's just because you just had crackers for a month.
Yeah, but you only eat the chicken noodles once.
And that's the thing, and I think that's what found footage horrors is. They're crackers. They're slow burns, slow. You're like, why am I watching this? Why am I watching this? What the fuck was that?
And I think that's the thing with found footage films is that they have to be slow burns because if scary stuff was happening all the time, it would take you out of the potential reality of
Yeah, exactly. Because in real life, fuck all's happening all the
Yeah,
time.
exactly. So that's why they have to be that way in order to try and be quote unquote convincing.
But again, there's good found footage and there's wank found footage.
Yes.
I don't think we even need to bother going through each sequel of Paranormal Activity. It's just so much.
I mean, once you've seen one of them, you've seen all of them. They tried to do some sort of overarching sort of storyline.
Oh yeah, whenever a horror series has run out of ideas, they just go with cult.
Yeah, it's always a cult, isn't it?
End of the day, whenever something's been really cool, really this and that, and they can't think of anything. Oh, turns out there's a cult.
Yeah.
End of the fourth one.
What kind of cult? Oh, it's a satanic cult. How do you know? Because pentagrams.
Oh.
like that's it.
Hey, cults exist. Yeah, we'll just do that.
Exactly.
Cults.
Do you know what's actual cults? Fucking Jonestown, Charles Manson, actual scary cults. Why don't you try and actually sort of be scary rather than oh no, it's just hoodies and shit.
Again, speaking of found footage rural, have you ever seen the Last Exorcism films? Part 1 and 2.
Last Exorcism.
Basically about it's another found footage film. It's about a vicar that goes around to rural America, and these people think their daughters are possessed, but so he uses psychology things to make him think that they're not anymore, because he realizes that a lot of people just like jump to exorcism and jump to possession and all that sort of thing, and then he comes across someone that turns out is actually fucking possessed, and there is a cult. But the film ends in the most badass way, with the girl he thought wasn't possessed and all this sort of thing, with a giant fiery demon spewing out of her body in a ceremony in an open field. And the prick is seeing all this, like the priest is seeing all this, and you know what he does?
What?
He doesn't run away. He takes out his fucking cross and he walks towards it like to take it on. Sadly, we don't
Come at me, bro.
Yeah. Jesus' version of "Come at me, bro." Sadly, we don't see what happened to him because the cameraman was like, "Fuck this, I'm have it," and he runs away, he trips, and he's killed. But for me, that's just always stuck with me because that's the most badass thing I've ever seen. He literally sees the idea, like, you've been confronted with an actual demon. I got this. And he goes to fight it.
There are other bad found footage films. Cloverfield is one of them.
Was that ever meant to be taken too seriously, do you think?
I don't know. I think the beginning of it, and again, like, they show the monster in the end, so, it's like bollocks. But...
Again, and it was good enough for South Park to spoof. Although they replaced them with guinea pigs.
Yeah, but I think, like, South Park kind of take the piss out of stuff because it's sort of bad, don't they?
But the fact that they drew attention to it does mean it had an impact.
Yeah, no, it definitely had an impact because it wasn't like the sort of found footage horror film. It was like the everyday found footage.
I'd say it was definitely more of a monster film.
Sort of thing. Yeah, no, definitely a monster film. Yeah, for sure. Found footage monster film.
Yeah.
And
not too many of those, I don't think.
No, I don't think there really are. And I do like hybrids of films. So, for instance, I like films that can be scary that are not necessarily fall into the class of being necessarily a horror film.
I think a found footage slasher could be quite interesting. Like, imagine Michael Myers chasing you, but it's like first person perspective. So when you're hiding in a closet, you literally see him rip through it from first person.
That could be scary, yeah. There's another great one. I've actually lent you the DVD, still have it. VHS.
Yes,
Great.
That was very interesting.
That came out at sort of the time when found footage films were, sort of the big thing. But that is very good because it's a collection of different found footage kind of videotapes. The premise is that there's a load of sort of, ne'er-do-wells that break into a house. They find a dead guy in this house. And there's loads of VHS tapes that this dead guy's been watching. And then they watch the tapes. And each tape is kind of, in a way, its own short film. But they're all found footage. And they're all kind of neat concepts, really. So if you ever get a chance to watch VHS, I highly recommend that film.
But I do like how a lot of found footage has almost adapted to modern things. For example, did you see Unfriended?
Yes. And I saw the second one, Dark Web.
I did not see that one, but obviously Unfriended was, in a way, a refreshing take on found footage. So rather than a handheld camera, it's from the perspective of a constantly on Skype chat, isn't it?
Yeah, and although I will say, I think the second one is actually the stronger of the two films.
I'll have to check it out. Cause don't get me wrong, I thought, in a way, it was kind of stupid. All the people in the chat was going through this bullshit. It was the girl who they made kill herself was making them slowly die one at a time.
Yeah, and then and again, like going back to the thing, it's like, oh, these guys are all arseholes, they deserve it. And also the fact...
You find out they're pieces of shit. They don't come across it right from the start. They just seem like friends fucking around with each other.
And then you find that actually people generally are kind of nasty. But the thing is, I lost it when the fucking guy put his hand in the blender. I actually laughed out loud at that point. I was like, what? Are you kidding? I was like, really?
I really didn't like the ending when the laptop gets slammed down by whoever the girl is and it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit sort of cheesy.
But how do you end it, really?
I would have just ended it with the laptop slamming down and then nothing.
Okay, yeah, that's probably better. But again, I can at least appreciate a different... Again, adapting to new media in that, because I'd never seen, obviously, that sort of done before. And again, it did have some scary moments. Obviously, an entity that's chatting to them that they can't identify.
Yeah, and also the fact that, like the thing is that they think it's someone that's like trolling them.
Well, so would you.
Yeah, exactly, you would. And so it's like kind of a normal thing. And I think also found footage films, a lot of the acting's like kind of bad, but in that film, it's not too bad. I think it's all right.
It's hard to pretend. It's hard to act that you're not acting because you
Yeah.
can't be yourself. You have to be a character who's acting like themselves, who's not meant to be a character.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah, that is very true. Especially,
acting like you're not acting is probably very
yeah,
difficult.
and especially when you have like actors that are not in a relationship and stuff, but have to act like they are, and like family members as well that have to act like they are family members when they're not.
That makes me think of that other found footage one. I can't remember what it's called. The Visit, where these kids go, the people they think is their grandparents.
Oh, that's an M. Night Shyamalan one.
Was it? I can't remember what it was called. The Visit, or
Yeah, it's called The Visit. Yeah. It was M.
yeah,
Night
and
Shyamalan.
they think and it turns out that they're like lunatics that killed their grandparents and took their place and all that.
Yeah, that again, M. Night Shyamalan plot twist.
Oh, he's precious.
And it is creepy as well, like the parts where you know something's wrong. Like you know
I
something's
think it's like that
wrong.
uncanny valley.
Yeah,
sort of
it is
thing.
definitely the uncanny valley. And like when she gets the kid to go in the oven or whatever, and you're like,
Can you climb in for me? Yeah.
and you're like, I know something's weird about this.
Or the bit under the house.
Yeah, stuff like that. But then it's only at the end, and then you realise, oh my god, all the stuff that they were doing. It's like that plot twist, like with the others. You're like, oh shit, like oh my god, like
Another shout out to the others.
yeah, exactly. Nicole Kidman, love you.
Again, the climax wasn't that amazing, but to be honest, the climax is not what found footage movies are for. You could almost argue you're not really meant to be. The climax of a found footage isn't meant to be at its highest point. It's mainly just meant to be its end. I think the whole point of the found
Especially
footage.
if it's bad.
Yeah, I can't think of a found footage movie where the best part was at the end.
No, I can't really either.
Have you ever seen Wreck?
No.
It's another famous found footage film. It's on the premise where you think it's a zombie outbreak in like an apartment complex. There's a newscaster with a camera person. So that's one of those, because you often get that as a people complaining, oh, why are you keeping the camera rolling in a found footage thing? But in this case, it's an actual newscaster that's trying to report on everything that's going on. So that's why the camera's still rolling.
Yeah.
You see that in so much found footage, like someone, oh my god, this is horrible.
Yeah.
Let me hold
yeah,
with my arm.
but they're holding it like head height.
Yeah.
And like,
Let me get a really good shot for this thing I'm fucking terrified
That's
of.
the fucking thing, isn't it? Yeah.
And at first you think it's a zombie outbreak. People are acting like ravaged psychopaths. People are trapped. People are scared. It's a really enclosed, claustrophobic sort of found footage,
Yeah.
almost home invasion horror film. And it turns out at the end, I don't want to ruin it because it actually really is cool. But it's not what you think, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, and claustrophobia is very much a part of like isolation. So like Cabin in the Woods, as parodying that. Isolation and claustrophobia are two very good tools that can be used in horror.
But I would say they're on their own. They're different forms of horror.
Yes,
Because
yes.
isolation, you can have all the space in the world, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whereas claustrophobia, every bit of space matters.
Yeah, exactly, and they're sort of opposite to each other. And
I'd say a lot of claustrophobia horror does come in home invasion horrors because
Yeah.
people are trying to hide.
yeah, for sure. Alien as well. That's a very claustrophobic.
Obviously, because they're trapped on a spaceship.
Yeah.
Like when
And that's both claustrophobia and isolation because you're isolated in space, so you can't go anywhere. But you're also in these tiny, like cramped compartments where you need to try and hide from this monster.
I know this is a famous fact, but I want to say in case someone listening doesn't know. Obviously, the bit when the alien burst out the guy's chest in Alien, all of the crew didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So all their reactions, if you're ever watching that, are absolutely genuine.
Yeah. Most people know that, but it's still like even if you do, like it's a cool fact. I think.
I can't think of a single Alien film that's been good since Aliens.
Since Aliens,
Have you seen the third one?
Second one? No.
That takes place on the prison planet, and then the fourth one, Resurrection, and then there's.
I saw the first one. I saw Alien, Aliens, and Prometheus.
Oh.
Which Prometheus is technically is part of it.
We never wanted a backstory for the big thing in the chair. It was just so cool.
Yeah, exactly. That was all it needed to be. But you like the thing is, it's like one of those things. It's like you can make sequels and you can make prequels. People are going to watch them regardless.
Could you? It's like making a prequel movie for the fucking Sorting Hat in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Oh, how did it become the Sorting Hat at Hogwarts?
Well, it's
Who
Harry-
fucking cares?
Also, magic. There we go. Just shut the fuck up.
Oh, you know, Rowling would say, oh, it was a transgender gnome that got transfigurated into a hat and was cursed to tell people what arseholes they are. Or something.
I don't know. Maybe.
If I was that hat, 90% of the time I would be a dick. And if, oh, this person's meant for Gryffindor. Hufflepuff.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're in the most hated house. Ha ha ha.
For Gryffindor. Hufflepuff. No, I'm just kidding. It's Gryffindor. No, I got you. Oh, it's fucking Hufflepuff, mate.
Yeah, I'd be an endless
Yeah.
trolling dick. You're
Yeah.
gonna force me into eternal
And then-
enchanted servitude? Fuck you.
And then after all of that, mate, you're in Slytherin. You're the fucking bad guys. Like, get the fuck out of it. Like,
Yeah, I always wondered that. Brief didactism here. Like, why was it every kid that was Sword in Slytherin wasn't just instantly expelled? The Sorting Hat is determined you're evil. So we're not going to teach you how to be really good at being
yeah,
evil.
exactly. Ravenclaw, you're really smart. And Hufflepuff, I don't really know what you do, but you know, you're only here to round out the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would have been good if, like, maybe there was some sort of heroic, like, Hufflepuff thing at the end of the book, or so, just to, you know, give them something to do more than anything. Because, like, Slytherin students, it's like, look,
Hey.
guys, you guys probably could have actually helped in the fight. Hufflepuff should have been the ones that sat it out.
You realise every book reader listening right now is going to flood with, actually, Paguvia McGargadin was at the final battle and she kicked Voldemort in the balls and did everything amazing.
Well, actually, Paguvia Gargadin can fucking suck my balls because I don't care. Also, I read that book and I'm fairly sure...
You read all the Harry Potters?
No, I only read the end one because I wanted to know who dies. I wanted to know because it was so
Why not
hyped
just
up.
Google it?
Because no one knew. Also, I didn't have internet. Like,
Wait, so you bought it when it first came out?
yeah.
You
Yes.
queued for it?
No.
Oh, right.
My cousins queued for it.
Oh.
My cousins queued for it. And got me one.
Hang on, we will do a Harry Potter episode. Back to horror.
Yeah. Back to horror.
Found footage I enjoy, and again we mentioned earlier Maniac, a different kind of found footage from a first-person perspective.
It's a POV.
Yeah, and
But I don't know. Does he actually film his stuff, or is it just supposed to be from his eyes?
He doesn't film anything, and it's from his eyes. But I don't know.
So it's just a POV.
I guess that doesn't count as
It's its
found
own sort of thing.
footage, But
That would be cool. I would bring that. I would bring back more POV found footage.
I don't.
POV horror films. I'd bring that.
Well, that's the thing, because sadly, because of what the Conjuring universe and all that is now, no one's ever going to take risks on a horror film being creative and risk it being good. We've got the cookie cutter horror formula to get through.
But I think that's one of the benefits of found footage is that it doesn't need a giant budget.
That is also a plus and a curse, because it also means that's exactly what you said earlier. Because it's so low budget, they can be pumped out so frequently.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the
I
point
think
it saturates and the magic gets lost, like it did.
Yeah, and even if you make like a good one, it's just going to be lost in the fray.
Exactly.
You know, like you could make like the magnum opus of found footage, and no one's going to see it.
I think it's time we ask this now. We've gone through a lot of different genres. We're getting close to the end now. Rob, what is your favourite horror film of all time?
Oh man, I'm going to say it,
Go for it.
and it's going to piss a lot of people off.
I'm already angry.
It's The Woman in Black. I love that film, actually, as a whole.
I think a little bit of detail. Mention how you've also seen the play.
I have also seen the play, and if you see the play is 10 times more scary than the film. And now the film isn't hugely scary.
What about the sequel?
We're not going to talk about the sequel. Mainly because the sequel takes absolutely... the first one is good because it takes source material from the book and the play. The sequel is a completely... It's original material, so we're not going to talk about that. But the first one, the camera work in it, personally, I think is incredible. Well, not necessarily incredible, but it's very good. It's also, as I said, very like atmospheric, and it's actually the pacing as well. I think is something that it plays to the strength. Is that it seems like it's kind of a slow burn, and then there are certain shots. If you haven't seen it, then I mean this isn't really spoiled, but there are certain shots and bits in it where there's sort of like not really any sound, and it's kind of less is more in a lot of the shots that are more eerie, but then the shots that are very much supposed to scare you, that is what it brings it. That brings
If you
it
could give
all.
us a favourite scene.
A favourite scene. My favourite scene is he's Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, funny enough. He's looking out the window and he sees the woman just standing in the graveyard.
Right.
And she's just standing there. And then, like, that's it. And then you find out at the end that the moment you see her, you're fucked. And so it's like, oh my god.
Well,
saw
actually, if
her
memory
for, like,
serves, the rule
seconds.
was that if someone looks at her, she just goes and kills a child, isn't it?
No, she'll kill your firstborn.
I thought it was just like she was like, if someone sees her, whoever by and however briefly, death always follows.
Yeah, your firstborn.
I always thought it was just any child.
No, it's his firstborn child. So you're like,
Because he saw her multiple times, and then kids in the village died, didn't they?
yeah, but from people that saw her
Right.
also.
I thought it was because of the multiple times Radcliffe saw her,
No,
and then the girl who drank the
people saw
lie,
her.
and then the girl in the fire, and all that.
Yeah, I know, because they were firstborns of different people in the village.
Right.
So you know, I mean, spoiler alert. I mean, the film is old. Okay, if you
Why
haven't
didn't
seen
that
it
town tell
by
him
now-
the second they got there? They were all
They
just
didn't tell him. They
no,
tried.
they didn't say anything specific. They said you shouldn't be here, and every time he asked why, they were like, "Oh, I can't talk about it. Kids are gonna die. Tell him to leave or kill him."
Yeah, but the point is that like when you realise at the end, like if you haven't seen the film by now, then that's your fault because it's old film pretty much now. But when he finds out, when he eventually dies, it's like, oh my god, like that split second that he just saw her standing there, he was doomed, and so was his kid, and like you're just like, oh, that is like some spooky shit.
Do you mind all the time they devoted to getting a son out the swamp and doing all that stuff, and it turned out to be for nothing?
No, I don't, because that's the thing. It turned out to be for nothing. It didn't matter. Like, they did the stuff, they put all this effort in, but it didn't matter. She was going to do what she was going to do.
Some people almost say that the ending was almost a good thing because Daniel Radcliffe and his son was reunited with their
His
dead
wife.
mother.
His
Yeah.
wife, yeah. So a bittersweet ending, really.
Well, that's the thing. There's a rule in horror that there should never be a good ending, isn't there?
Is there? I don't think that's a rule.
Kind of, because that's the whole point of horror. Like, if you've done horror right, you can't have a happy ending
Can't you? Why not?
because that defeats the idea of horror.
Well, I don't
Like,
think
there
it
can be
does.
no good endings. Like,
Right.
what other horror film do you know has a good ending?
Well, I mean, Texas Chainsaw, they technically get away.
Get Away. I don't know if that's a good ending.
The Exorcist, that's seen as the greatest horror movie of all time. That has a good ending.
Does it?
Yeah,
You've seen it, right?
yeah.
So at the end, he makes the girl go, the demon Pazuzu, go from in her into Father fucking.
Yeah, and he dies, but the girl is then
You haven't
released
seen the sequel, have you?
from the. Well, it doesn't matter. Like the first
Because
one,
the demon is still there.
Yeah, but no one cares about the second. No one gives a fuck about the second one. The first one, like I say, also like the first Exorcist is that has a happy ending. I don't think horror does have to have a sad ending the whole time.
Not a sad ending, but it can't be a happy ending.
Well, it's not really because he's dead.
Again, I'm someone that's also seen the third one where he comes back.
What, in Woman in Black? There isn't a third one.
No, sorry, I thought we were still talking about The Exorcist.
Oh no, Woman
Sorry.
in Black. In Woman in Black, he gets hit by a
Train. Yeah, he's fucking gone.
yeah, and
So that's
Then
your
he's realised-
favourite horror. Fair enough.
it is, and it's a good old fashioned haunted house horror as well, which I can get behind that stuff.
Again, I do question why, if the demon is, or the ghost in this case is so powerful, why it just has to do the little things at the start and then it stops giving a fuck at the end and just does the whole. Like when it comes to her and you hear that massive scream and she's like,
Because otherwise it'd be a shit film. And that is the thing. Horror does need to make the film good.
yes, you can have the slow burn, but you kind of have to justify it. Mention that it needs to gather strength or subtle life force, and that's why it can gradually start fucking with you more.
And also that happens in The Woman in Black. Is that, like, these kids die, but he doesn't really understand why they die until afterwards. So, like, the girl that drank the lie, it's just like, okay, so maybe she was just a kid that found the bottle and drank it because kids are dumb.
Well, the film opens with like 3 girls jumping out a window, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And again, and the whole idea of all of this. Oh, I do like that when he was reading that letter, and it slowly went into her voice, and it's this very croaky, broken woman.
Yeah, and then also like when she's like in the background, and so you sort of see her like in the background. I think that's cool. And like we were talking about, It Follows.
Yeah.
Isn't like how you can look, and it's like you can see someone like walking towards like in the background. You're like, that's creepy.
Oh yeah, anyone in the background. So you're constantly looking around you.
Yeah, that it could be, and that's the thing. Like the suspense as well. And also I think with horror, I like to do this is putting myself like I like to watch a horror film and be like, what would I do? Like in that situation.
I'd say that's a large portion of horror. Like, for example, in films, whenever you see a character go underwater for a suspended amount of time, do you ever, like, hold your breath and see if you would have made it in that stance?
Yeah, and I never would.
No, I don't.
I never would. Like, when Jack Sparrow, like, dives in to save Elizabeth in the first one, when she falls off the, the thing, I was like, could I do... I was like,
Would that count as a horror film?
No,
I know it's action-adventure, but it's still spooky skeletons.
It's action-adventure that has some scary bits in it. Definitely not horror, though.
I'd say the whole theme of it all centres around
It's
the
a pirate film as well.
Yeah, but pirate ghosts.
Yeah, but it's not a horror film. I don't think that people would call that a horror film.
Nah, probably not.
No, it's action-adventure, isn't it?
I will now say my favourite horror film, and it is one we've already talked about. There is a very close runner-up, and I'll say it now as an honourable mention.
Yeah.
The Exorcist 3. Absolutely watch it. It is a magnum opus. The writer of the first Exorcist book directed it, and it comes through so well how well he understands horror. Okay, now my favourite horror film, Sinister.
The first one, I'm assuming.
Yep, first one. Yes. Second one is wank. One, because it is so well paced. Don't get me wrong.
Damn, I feel like I should have probably picked Sinister over Woman in Black.
Don't get me wrong. It has its horror cliches that I don't like when the young boy goes out the box and screams. That's a little stupid. But the whole idea, once again, the reason I like it so much is because the evil entity is unable to be defeated, and again, because it turns out he's not just a demon. He's not something that can be banished away with a prayer. This is a god. This is a pagan or something god that cannot be defeated. So the whole film isn't so much... I can't remember the name of the actor that was the guy in it, but...
No.
Anyway, he's not so much trying to find out how do I beat this thing. He's just trying to figure out about it, because the whole premise is him writing a book around all the things that's happening.
Yeah.
And as he's slowly watching the found footage of all the innocent families, I want to emphasise that word, innocent, in all these unsettling ways. And it's so good, because at the ending, spoiler warning here, at the ending, you find out all the children did it, and if you rewatch the footage, all the ways those people died could easily have been done by children. They were done in such subtle little ways and all that didn't require that much.
And by people.
Exactly.
Well. It wasn't like a supernatural sort of like killing. It was something that people could do to one another.
I thought watching the footage was amazing. When he was going through the house and the ghost children are fucking with him, it was kind of fun. Not too scary, but kind of fun. But so much of it is absolutely amazing. And the idea that, once again, this encapsulates horror to a T. You cannot win. You will not survive.
And also the fact that, usually people would get in like an exorcist or a priest or something, but he never does that. Because, first of all, he's on pressure from his wife to, not, fuck up this because they're, running low on money, right? So he's kind of doing his own investigative thing along with the policeman played by James Ranson.
Oh, yes, the deputy so-and-so.
Yeah, who plays Eddie in the second It film.
Oh, yes.
And also,
I do like that thing at the end when the deputy's trying to contact him to realise you're following the formula. Every time the family left the place, they died.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he just drinks the poisoned cup and he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's the fact that he never goes for like a sort of higher kind of power, because that's sort of how these films go. Like the Exorcist, it's like, okay, something really bad and spooky is happening, so we're gonna get an exorcist and stuff's gonna be right. He never does that. He tries to deal with it by himself.
Well, yeah, the way they made his character come across, that he didn't seem the type that even believed in like higher power.
Yeah, because he just wrote about true crime.
It took so long for him to finally understand that psychological, supernatural shit was even going on and all that.
Yeah.
Again, like when the picture of Bagul looks at him and then goes back.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, they take the piss out of that in Haunted House 2 because that's what it's.
Yeah.
And the fact that they draw attention to the fact that he's drinking loads, but in Haunted House 2, like Marlon Wayans is just like he's like smoking crack, shooting up heroin and stuff, not getting fucked up.
I also like the way when they parried it that all the ways to kill these families didn't work. Yeah. Like the tree didn't end up hanging the family, and he's trying to, when he tried to get them on the waterbeds, they weren't sinking, and they escaped and beat him up.
Yeah, I think that's because that's the sort of thing you think about. You're like, what if it didn't work though? Like,
yeah,
that's the kid like miscalculated, right? Like,
that's really good spoof, to be honest.
No, Sinister is a good film actually, and I said Woman in Black, I know, and we said it before, but The Others is definitely a favourite of mine. It's all the time. Like if I want to be.
It doesn't fill me with dread, but I definitely say it's spooky.
But I like it gives me a little bit of a chill, and that's what I like about it.
And it's one of the few horror films that has an amazing twist at the end, sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's another thing about horror films is that horror films to come back to, horror films to rewatch, I think are kind of few and far between.
Oh yes, because the twist. I don't want to. I was about to make a comparison, but that might give the twist away. Fight Club. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
So, when you rewatch
it, if you haven't watched Fight Club yet, that's your fault.
When you rewatch it and you noticed all the subtle things, like, oh yeah, he did that because of the ending and that.
And in a way, that's kind of. Maybe I'm weird, but I'm not like one of these people. Yes, you're weird. Yeah, I'm not one of these people that really cares about spoilers. In fact, like if someone tells me how a film ends, I kind of, in a way, like knowing the end and then watching the film. I like being along for the ride every now and then.
If it's a film that's climax hinges on the ending, I'm sorry, I am like, fuck.
Oh yeah.
Like if someone ruined the end of The Prestige for me and showed us how they did the magic tricks, or someone again ruined.
Oh yeah.
Fight Club and told me.
Yeah, no. I mean that. Yeah, for sure. That would be.
I mean, you get people. What is it called? You get some people who read books, and it's a funny little thing. They read the end of the book just so in case they say this. In case I die, I know how it ends. So they skip to the last page.
I like that though, and I do like sometimes watching films where I know what happens, how it ends, and I mean, maybe that's just me. I like being along for the ride.
A last horror note. We said our favourites. What is the worst horror film you've ever seen?
Oh. Okay.
And you're not allowed to just pick something that was cheesy because it was made in the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean something that failed to be scary.
That tried to be good but wasn't.
Yeah, something... And no fish in a barrel either, so you can't just choose Insidious.
I thought Insidious was alright.
Yeah.
But Insidious, like, it's not, Okay, so...
Do you remember a small little fun story? Me and Rob watched, was it the third one?
It was Insidious 3,
The third one, back when we were in
university. Second year.
We watched it in our living room, and there's a bit when the girl is out in the street because she's seen the man who breathes like an asshole.
No, it's the man... Oh, yeah, no, that's exactly his title, the man who breathes like an arsehole.
You're trying
in other words, he farts.
You're trying to sleep, and he's like... And she's in the middle of the road, and without warning, a car hits her. And my reaction to that was not what you'd expect.
It wasn't. It was... Well, first of all, he just went... And that was the only emotional response I got out of him through that entire fucking film.
The rest was so bearable, but the idea of it
it was.
A car just comes out of nowhere, no sound, the driver didn't even honk his horn or... no lights, just like...
Yeah.
It's like a cartoon where it's just like... Wah.
Yeah. So yeah, my worst horror film that I really don't like, I'm afraid it is gonna kind of have to be probably... Oh, I feel bad for saying this, but it's gonna be It 2.
Ooh. Do you mean part 2?
Yeah, part 2.
Is that just because of how long it is?
Well, it is very long, far longer than it needs to be. But also, if you haven't seen this film, spoilers, 3, 2, 1. Alright. Okay, so in that film, they all split up. The vast majority of the film is them having split up, and then you follow each individual character trying to find their talisman. You are then... Everyone is treated to one jump scare per character. Very cheesy. And then
that's... bit in the Hall of Mirrors was...
it. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't it. Like, the jump scare was that he was on... I think he was on the bike. It doesn't matter.
Kill that kid in the Hall of Mirrors?
Yeah. Pennywise killed a kid. So you're treated to one jump scare per character. One and one only. Why you split up is sort of beyond me, but, you know,
Time.
whatever. Because, well, yeah, so they split up saying that, saying, oh yeah, we got to go and find them on our own. Oh, okay. But guys, we're stronger together. That's how we beat it. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Either all travel around, find your talismans together as a group and be stronger, or split up because you have to because fucking reasons. And then...
Makes you think the Care Bears could defeat it.
Yeah.
Because they have the power of friendship.
The power of friendship. And then the final... I'm going to call it a boss battle, because that is what it is.
Don't they just, like, yell insults at it?
They yell insults at it. Also, you're treated to the strobe light factory as well.
Yeah,
for whatever reasons.
All things serve the beam.
Yeah, and it's not even the deadlights. The deadlights are their own thing, but then you have, like, really stroby sort of flashing things. It's pretty, sort of nauseous. And there are sort of other things. You even have a very forced, shoehorned reference to The Shining, because they're all being shown their kind of fears from when they were kids. And I just, at that point, I honestly was waiting for the film to be over. It's far too long for what it is. The pacing is all over the place. It contradicts itself, and honestly, like, I wanted to like that film. I really did, but I just came out of cinema, I was like, I just can't. Sinister 2 is a close second. That film is a close second. It had potential, but not. But yeah, whatever.
It almost, Sinister 2 almost works, because of the idea you think the kids are grooming this kid, but it turns out they were grooming the other one by making him jealous and hateful. That was almost cool.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking...
Yeah, just those, they just weren't... Really
so if you had to say
good.
it in, like, one sentence, why was it too bad?
Overstayed its welcome.
Fair enough. Was Bill Skarsgård's delivery of Pennywise still good?
Yes, absolutely. But that's... Other than the fact that I think the adult actors they got to play the kids, that was perfect casting. Whoever is the casting director for that, well done.
You could almost argue the reason, for example, like you said, Bill Skarsgård was good, but it overstayed its welcome too long. Like when you dip a paintbrush into a paint, it's dripping and it's amazing, and you slide it on the wall. The first bit of paint you get, it looks perfect, but the longer it goes down, the thinner and thinner and thinner the paint looks.
Yeah.
And by the time it gets to the bottom, there's next to no paint.
Yeah, and also, like, there are some kind of cheesy jump scares in it. And then they also kind of have flashbacks. They all have flashbacks
It is modern horror.
to when they were kids.
Yeah.
And then they have the jump scare. So, you know, there are kind of things. So, like, for instance, like Bill Hader, who's older Richie, it goes back to Finn Wolfhard, who plays young Richie, where he's on, like, in the arcade with, like, a boy, and it's alluded to that, you know, Richie is gay. And then, you know, there's this boy that he likes, you know, obviously, and then, you know, the bullies come. That's another thing. The bullies come, you know, Henry comes and then calls him a faggot, and, you know, he runs off. You're like, okay, that's like kind of sad. That's upsetting for a kid. Also, that's the thing. Henry, with his ghoul driver, breaks out of a mental asylum and then stabs James Ranson in the face, Eddie in the face. Which for whatever, I don't know, maybe it was scripting or whatever, but like
I can allude it wasn't
hilarious.
in the book.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Like the fact that he was like, "Why would you do that?" It's like, what you're asking? Could not get my head around that. And then, but then nothing is heard of him or his weird ghoul that drives him around ever again. It's just not.
To be fair, if you remember from the Tim Curry one, he didn't get much of a climax either. Pennywise broke him out of the asylum, he stabbed the black guy and then died.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're treated to fact, and then obviously you have Beverly. There's the weird kind of, I don't know if it's like sexual, it's so weirdly sexual, but thing with her father.
Yeah. I remember in the Skarsgård one, they mentioned that he was he was
I mean, he was definitely abusive. I don't know if he was like sexually abusive though. It's
I think they
alluded to.
strongly hinted it because it's like,
Yeah.
"You're my only honey" thing, and her discomfort definitely hinted it.
Yeah, no, that was definitely. And again, like that's something in that film that I will give it credit for. Like that genuinely did make me uncomfortable to watch. You know, Oh, I don't know what that actress's name is, but she is very good.
Right, I've got to name my worst horror film now. Again, I don't want to choose a really easy one. I'm trying to think of one that's fundamentally bad on... Not, for example, I don't want to just choose Sinister 2 because, the guy was an asshole, that wouldn't work. Because so many other elements did work. That just ruined it. That's like having... It's like having a really nice-looking trifle and then a bird shits on it. That's not the trifle's fault. Yeah, it's got shit on it now. I'm not going to eat it, but the rest was good. I just can't eat it. I'm trying to think of a horror film that just worked on everything it attempted, failed. I think it's unfair to choose a slasher film because if you think, oh, this slasher film is so cheesy and it's so not scary, you have failed at watching a horror film. Because you go into a slash film knowing what you're getting. So that's your fault. That's not the film's fault. And that is something else we need to understand in certain societies. If you go into an MCU movie, for example, and you see, they're all just cracking jokes while fighting the villain. Yeah, that's what we've had for 19 films now. That's your fault for being angry.
But if you go into an MC movie and no action happens, that's the film's fault.
Yeah, you can be upset at that. I am totally victim blaming when it comes to certain people complaining about films not acting the way they wanted when they're acting within their own genre's guidelines.
Yeah, I can also say this about like, kind of like Star Wars as well. Like the new Star Wars films.
Oh, here we go.
But
we will have a Star Wars episode, but carry on.
But the fact is that saying like, it's like, oh my god, there's nothing like the older ones. Yeah, no shit, it's nothing like the older ones, you fucking retard. Oh shit, I'm not allowed to say that anymore.
Wait, don't people just compare the new ones to the old ones? That they're the cookie-cutter, like, remakes?
Yeah, I know, but they fucking shouldn't. It's like, no shit, because George Lucas ain't fucking directing them. It's owned by Disney now.
Wait, did he direct or write them?
The first ones, yeah.
Wait, direct or write?
Yeah, both. He wrote and directed Star Wars.
Oh,
George
right.
Lucas. But like these new ones, people say, oh, it's nothing like the old ones. He's like, well, if you don't like it, then fucking watch the old ones, mate. Alright, if you like the old ones, watch the old ones. But you complaining about the new ones, first of all, I know you're still going to watch them, even though you tweet about how you're not going to watch them, but you will. And then second, it's like you knew when you bought that ticket, you went in and know that you did, with the assumption that you weren't going to like them. You went in there to confirm your bias.
True, if a food critic goes into a steakhouse and that food critic's a vegetarian,
Yeah, it's like,
that meal was shit. No wonder it was shit. You're a vegetarian.
yeah, it's like you go to like McDonald's, and stuff. You're like, the only good thing I can say is that it came very quickly. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, it's fast food.
That now makes me want to check out McDonald's on TripAdvisor and see the sort of entitled shit people were expecting.
It'd probably be high. It'd probably be high. I mean, those McDonald's workers, like, the thing is, like, my fucking teacher, this is really politically incorrect what my teacher said back when I was a young warthog. It was like, if you don't get good grades, then you'll end up working at McDonald's. But she failed to mention how much McDonald's workers can potentially make.
Oh yeah, I'm a barman. McDonald's workers make more than I do. They have like a whole career path. Another thing,
I worked at Domino's for over a year. Like,
never disparage a service worker if you at any time ever expect that service to be made to you. If you ever want to be served food, if you ever want food to be brought to you, if you ever want any service made to you, don't fucking ever say that person's service is not worth your time.
No, it's not. I mean, the thing is, like, I've ordered food from, place, like delivery or whatever, and it's turned up like an hour. But even then, I'm still like, oh, and they say like, oh, sorry. So I was like, no worries, man. Like, it's all cool. Like, because like obviously I've been on the receiving end, so it's like I know that it's,
I've worked
it's
in leisure
hard.
and hospitality, and people are shit.
Yeah, and that is the true horror.
That is
of
the worst
human life.
That is the worst horror film. Oh, you know what? There should be a spoof horror film made out of on Karens. The Karen, and the K is shaped like a knife and all that sort of thing. That's the true worst horror monster.
Oh god.
The Karen.
The Karen.
And you see the villain.
Do your jigsaw voice and say, I want to speak to your manager.
I want to speak to your manager.
You know how you see the villain picking up their weapon, you see the Karen picking up her Starbucks cup.
Pinning back her hair.
Like the tagline, your privilege will be checked.
Your privilege will be checked.
Okay.
Anyway, my worst horror film. I've seen so many, but failed for different reasons. But on other elements they won. I really do struggle to pick a worst one. Because like we've been through this entire thing, there are so many sub-genres of horror that it failed on that, but it worked for that.
Yeah, I mean, think about a horror film that you watched and at the end you were just like, oh, that was bad.
Again, I'm going to pick the easy targets, like whether it's The Conjuring or the Insidious movies, where I just thought, Christ, that made me feel fucking numb.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll go with... I'm sorry, my brother and I have debated about this immensely. He's a horror snob.
Or connoisseur, depending on what side you're on.
Yes, and I would say the first Conjuring. It is...
Oh, really?
Yes, because
First one?
It is every insufferable cliche, every boring stereotype, and I can't think of a single moment it did anything fresh. It literally, ironically, it dug up a corpse, reanimated it, and pretended it was something new. I hated it so much. And just because it introduced the Warrens with the whole, like, how a demon works, infestation, oppression, possession, and all that sort of thing. That was an interesting element, but then it didn't really look convincing, like the mother, and then at the ending when she's in the chair with the bag over her head, like she's in the middle of a frat party hazing. And they're all just being like, and she's fine. And
I will say there was that one cool shot where the sheet flies off the closing line, and then there's like, it hits like an invisible thing and it wraps around it. That's a cool shot.
I guess. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not saying that does it.
The film is very well shot. There's even a very interesting camera moment when they first move in and they're following people around the house. It's very well shot. It just fails for me at horror. It is boring. When it tries to be horror, it is cliche.
It's an axis of average film.
It is the opposite of what I said earlier. It is a pile of bird turds with an ice cream on top.
Yeah, so it's all like you have like good bits at the tip, but like underneath it's all kind of shit.
And sometimes you can barely manage the tip.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
I really don't like the first Conjuring.
I think that's true. I wouldn't rush to watch it again.
It's like, I really can't think of a single thing to applaud it for other than just how it was shot.
I mean, there were some cool...
If my brother was here, he'd be running his mouth on about, oh, do you remember when the two kids were in the bedroom and they went in the closet and then the closet went boogity woogity woo? Or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly how that scene turned out.
The kid were playing the counting game or some shit.
Oh, yeah.
Some sort of boring... This is what I was talking about earlier with, like, anticipated jump scares. You're building towards it, but you're being so verbal about it. I know everything that's going to happen.
I think that's the thing. Is that there are good bits in The Conjuring, but I'm not willing to wade through the bad bits to get to them.
Yeah, it's like digging through shit to find a cupcake.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, the cupcake's going to be covered in shit.
Yes.
And also, you might have struck it, like, cut it in half with your spade.
And I don't need the calories.
No, exactly.
Right then, bloody hell, this has been so long, but I think not too bad for our Halloween special bonanza.
I think it's been okay.
If anyone has made it this far, what is wrong with you? We are not this interesting.
Yes, seek help. Seek help or self-medicate, or both. Seek help and self-medicate.
Or stay tuned for the next episode, because, you know, if we're really your kink, then there's more coming.
Yeah, exactly. In which case, I assume that you're just a giant masochist.
And I would love to meet you.
Yeah. So, you know, as friends, obviously, to start off with.
If we've had any horror opinions you disagree with, we would love to hear about them in the comments and all that sort of thing. So feel free to comment your favourite horrors, your least favourites, your favourite tropes, your least favourite tropes, cliches, Marvin's.
Favourite villains, favourite weapons.
All of that good stuff.
Favourite jump scares.
Or if you just simply want to post us a question for next video, once again, we'd be happy to answer it.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, happy Halloween!
And you have been listening to Laughing on a...
Bro.